Hey, what's up, everyone? We are now live. Very exciting event. Our first time covering a super tournament on this channel, but happened very quickly, and here we are. We got round two of the PNWCC Super Invitational. They played the first round yesterday, and this is the Pacific Northwest Chess Center that's holding this event, sponsoring it. They also run the US Chess Hub site, which has done a lot of tournaments lately. So, David, are you excited for this? It seems like your camera might have just frozen. And I think we have just lost David. So hopefully we can get him back in a sec. In the meantime, we got Fedoseev playing against Jeffrey Zhang and the Kwang Liam playing against Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. AH-Axis. I'm sure he'll figure it out. Hey, Phenom Monkey. Yeah, it's great that we've come so far. No, this really happened very, very quickly. I mean, they announced the event not too long ago. I messaged the organizers, asked if we could cover it, and here we are. We'll get into it, Pulsey. I'm pretty sure, yeah, we're still in some theory here in this game between Fedoseev and Jeffrey, but I'm sure we'll break everything down. Yeah, not sure why Discord is a little bit being a little bit weird. Maybe David actually might have lost his connection, but I think we're about to get him back. I think I see him. I see him coming back.
I hear you, Kostya.
Hey, David.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
You said that we were live, and then my computer just turned itself off out of the blue.
Yeah, I got real nervous.
I'm sorry, I was so excited, and it was just like, no.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, not the best timing, but you know what? It's gonna be a long day, and we got plenty of chess ahead of us. Were you saying anything when it cut off? I wasn't sure exactly when we lost you.
No. I was just getting excited. Blew the computer out with my brainwaves.
Cool. So yeah, we'll get into the openings in just a little bit. I'm sure it'll be interesting to discuss the theory here. We got Fedoseev here and the Kwang Liam on board 2 playing white against Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. So they did have their first round yesterday. We'll be covering all of the even rounds 2, 4, and 6. This is going to be a double round robin, so they each play each other twice. And in yesterday's rounds, it seems like Jeffrey beat the Kwang Liam, I would guess, with the white pieces.
You're correct.
And Mamedyarov and Fedoseev looks like they drew.
Yeah, 2 really exciting games. I can give a quick round summary if you want.
Sure, let's hear it.
Since I've looked through them, Mamedyarov played the white side of a Slav, and he played a quick f3 e4, and it was pretty crazy, and it was really like aggressive and wild, and led to a draw relatively quickly. By move 30, there was a piece sack for a perpetual. And Jeffrey played a Queen's Gambit against Lei Kwang Liam, and played a very aggressive central pawn break with d4, d5 with the hanging pawns. And the point of it was that if Lei Kwang Liam took his center pawns, he would win in exchange, and that's what Lei Kwang Liam needed to do, was like capture the center pawn and let Jeffrey win the exchange. But he avoided what Jeffrey seemed to be going for, and then Jeffrey's center took over and he crushed him.
Wow.
Never had another chance to take it. So when somebody breaks on you with d4, d5 or c4, c5 or something like that, bear in mind that if you don't take it right away, you may just get bowled over.
Right. Now, David, I'm actually setting up webcams of the players. Maybe you could talk a little bit about who you would expect to win. Who do you think is your favorite?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, with this kind of a classical time control of 90 plus 30, which has been sort of like a FIDE standard for a couple of years now, I would think that basically the player who's higher rated in classical ratings, which is Mamedyarov, would be somewhat of a favorite in the tournament. These other players are quite good, but Mamedyarov has been on a higher level than them. He's been up to 2,800 1 or 2 years ago, and now at like 2,780. It's still, a 50+ point gap, which is noticeable at that level. So you'd expect him to be a pretty good, a noticeable favorite. I think statistically he'd be expected to come out half a point or +1 above the field if you did this hundreds of times this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's any reason to expect that one player or another is particularly over or underrated. So, if you have like a 12-year-old kid, often their rating is lagging by a couple hundred points or at least 100 points. But I don't think that's the case with anybody here. The youngest player is Jeffrey, and he did win in the first round, so his rating might have lagged a little bit with no tournaments for the last 4 months. He may have been studying and doing some things to improve, but you would expect it takes years, not months, to catch up with a player like Mamedyarov.
Right.
That's what I'd think here.
Nice. So your top pick is Mamedyarov. Let's say you had to guess the final placement of all 4 players.
I guess statistically, I would expect Mamedyarov. It's 3 games against each player with white and black, 6 rounds. You'd expect Mamedyarov to score something like +2, like 4-2,
Mm-hmm.
would be like a good winning score, and you'd expect Jeffrey and Lei Kwang Liam mathematically to be around equal, and Fedoseev to be around -2, maybe. Jeffrey's already won a game, and maybe just a little bit more. There is a factor of how comfortable people are playing on the internet, which could play into this a little bit. So maybe I'm gonna not purely give a rating-based prediction, but also a results-based prediction, since we've already had 1 round, and predict Jeffrey to finish at +1 and Lei Kwang Liam to finish at -2 and Fedoseev at -1. I'm going to switch them based on Fedoseev being very comfortable playing online. So,
Gotcha. So you have...
There you go. Mamedyarov at +2, Jeffrey +1. Big Fish at -1, Fedoseev, and then -2 for Lei Kwang Liam.
Awesome. And just in time, I have gotten ready. So we got some of the players here. We got Lei Kwang Liam and Mamedyarov. Not the typical webcam like of the face that we see, actually a side view. But this is actually unique to US Chess Hub and the PNWCC. So I played one of their classical tournaments a couple weeks ago, and they have some pretty strict anti-cheating measures. Like all the players have to be logged on to the same Zoom call, and in addition to having your webcam, which I think is actually not even that important, they ask that you provide a video of your playing area, much like we're seeing here from Lei Kwang Liam and Mamedyarov. So we can see their computer screens, we can see they're not like switching programs, there's no one next to them with like a laptop. It's interesting, they both have their physical boards out.
Nice.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't really tell, but it feels like the pieces kind of look like they match the board position. I see like bishop on b7, bishop on c5 there for Liam, queen on d8, king on e8. So yeah, it looks like the live position.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's it's true that a zoom in on the face is not going to give you much anti-cheating.
That's right. But it is nice to see players react in real time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun for the broadcast.
Right.
But as far as like cheating measures, I think that this is clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but of course, okay, all these players are like trusted in the community and well known. I don't think they have a huge concern, but yeah, for the open tournaments, it's definitely becomes like a pretty serious deal. Okay, so we can talk about this game, this position at hand, for a little bit. Maybe go back through the opening, see what happened here. So this started with knight f3, d5, d4, knight f6, c4, and then shock just takes, so kind of like a delayed QGA. And here the benefit for black, though, is that white isn't able to play e4 like they would normally want to if black had, if we had gotten this from the regular move order. Nowadays, e4 is considered a big main line. But here, since white started with knight f3, he doesn't have access to those more critical lines. He has to go for something a little bit slower. Still super playable. I mean, tons of options for white. He goes for one of them, dc, bishop takes c5, knight c6, a3, bishop c5, b4. Now we have this position, which, yeah, feels very symmetrical. I'm sure there'll be dynamics here just because there's like so many pieces, but for the most part, I can't imagine white getting a ton of advantage here.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect white to get a ton of advantage. They haven't particularly gained any tempo or made any threat just yet. I think d takes c5 is less like an attempt at gaining an advantage than just you know, well, let's keep a playable position since I didn't get you know, a really good version of this variation.
Yeah, I mean, you don't think he's still in book here? It feels like he's played relatively quickly to already be kind of bailing out.
He may still be in book. I just think that the decision there is probably based on this variation not having panned out to be a good one for him, honestly, from this move order.
Oh, that's true. Maybe he wasn't expecting d takes c4 from Mamedyarov on move 3. That's very possible. I don't know if this is a huge part of Shock's repertoire. I feel like he has played it, but I don't know if this was the main thing, yeah, he would be expecting from him.
Yeah, I think Shock has a fairly wide repertoire, so a little bit hard to fully prepare.
Yeah. But here...
He's having a long think here, right?
He's been thinking for at least several minutes.
Yeah. So bishop b6 is very committal as far as leaving almost no pieces on your king side. Bishop e7 takes away one of the best squares for your own queen, because white's next move could well be rook d1. I mean, it could be bishop b2 as well, right? But let's say white plays rook d1. Black has to be ready with what they want to do about it, and the candidate squares are like e7, b6, and b8, but e7 would be the snuggest. He could play bishop d6 and queen e7 and get like 100% symmetry.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like, I mean, I don't know, I feel like bishop b6 would be the most natural choice, but yeah, clearly there's something he maybe doesn't remember, not familiar with. Taking his time. Actually, do we have any, can we get any insight from it? Yeah, he's thinking. He's just full in thought. Do we know why Mamedyarov hasn't been in super tournaments recently?
Yeah, there haven't been any.
True. Well, let's see. He did not qualify for the latest candidates. I'm sure he was in contention, but it's very difficult. It's very competitive now, and there are so many good players that also didn't get in, like Aronian, for example, and I think Nakamura is not in there, and MVL wasn't for a while, and he got in at the last second. But Mamedyarov had a very interesting evolution. I mean, he was a guy who was like, as far as I remember, 27-40 for like a couple years. And back then it was Rajabov who was the big Azeri superstar at the elite events. But somewhere in the last couple of years, I think he like I guess he started working even harder than before, and he like just broke through like 2800. He was number 2 for like a minute there, which was really fascinating.
Yeah. There's a discussion of whether or not the tempi are balanced here. Like if black goes bishop d6 and goes into symmetry, have they lost the tempo or not? And the answer is that the tempi will be equal to the starting position. So it means white will have, when it's white's turn, they'll have 1 extra move, and when it's black's turn, they'll have equal moves. So you could imagine bishop d6, bishop b2, queen e7, knight c3, castles would establish pure symmetry with white to move. So white is up half a tempo, because half the time they're up 1 tempo and half the time the tempi are equal. And that's exactly like the starting position. So nothing has been gained or lost yet if he went for that move.
I see. Okay, I just got a standings command up because I'm sure people will be asking. So if anyone comes in asking for the standings, we can send them
nice work.
Command. Thank you. I'll be updating that for every stream, hopefully.
I'm impressed how professional you are, Kostya.
Just multitasking all over the place.
Your command of Moobot is just on another level.
Well, let's switch to the other game. We got Fedoseev versus Zhang.
Yeah.
And I'll switch the live board as well. So this opening also looks QGA related, but had its own move order.
Yeah. It's a kind of slightly rare accepted version of the Queen's Gambit as well, like a delayed accepted, which I have got very little knowledge of. I've seen it like once or twice before.
Oh, I see. Yeah, officially,
but I just basically don't know anything about why it works or like how it works, I guess.
Right. Well, yeah, this is the famous Vienna variation, which has been at top levels, I think, for years and years.
Okay, cool. It's famous.
Yeah. But this move b5, this is a fairly recent wrinkle, as far as I understand.
Okay, that's the variation I was talking about. Is the choice of b5 there, and in that position before b5 was played, I'm more familiar with like bishop b4.
Right.
But so b5. I mean, I vaguely know what the idea is. Maybe you know more than me, but the point is, well, first of all, white's going to have to play e5 to not lose the e pawn. But then black deliberately brings the knight back to b6 immediately. And the point of the variation is to keep this pawn on c4 for a while, despite the fact that black seems to have gotten this horrible pawn structure on purpose. They keep the c4 pawn kind of cramping white. They blockade d5 and somehow get the space they want for the black pieces.
Yeah.
Do you know more than that about this weird line?
Not really. I think it's just one of those things like the computer says it works, and so they started looking at it and they find that it's playable, and yeah, they go for it. Because I've always thought it was weird to allow because white wins the pawn back. e5, knight d5 takes, and then this is the structure that black wants to play. Right.
He's chosen the structure. He didn't blunder it. And if a player from 1920 to 1950 saw this, their first instinct would be that black didn't know how to play chess. Like they just moved their knight 2 times while taking on this structure.
Right. Yeah.
They're
exactly.
down in development, down in central control, and down in pawn structure. You'd think it's not really an opening.
Yeah, so I honestly didn't really get this one. I did see that game from the Olympiad last year with Ding Liren beating Jan-Krzysztof Duda in this variation. That was a very nice game from White's point of view by Ding.
Yeah. Have you also noticed, Kostya, that Icy Stun knows every game ever played?
Not like every game, but he knows a lot. Despite
I haven't yet showed a single thing on stream that he hadn't seen before.
Oh man. And he doesn't
I've
even
been streaming
like
like every single day for weeks.
I see he's like not even interested in chess. He wants like 960 and chess variants.
Icy wants 960?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a big 960 fan.
That's good, me too.
Yeah. Hey Emmett, the puzzle grind has slowed down, especially with this event, but I haven't lost a day yet. I'm still going strong, and I'll be doing some more puzzle grinding later today.
All right. So as soon as this show with Super GMs is over, Toasty will be doing tactics.
Yeah, getting back to the real stuff.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see this structure because to me, I'm still unfamiliar with it. I vaguely know that it's a legitimate thing, and I've seen 1 or 2 games in it that I don't remember as well as Icy Stun remembers the games he sees. But I have this general understanding that Black gets, the space they need for their pieces, and the C4 pawn somehow, instead of being super weak, cramps White's style a little.
Right.
So let's see how we're doing as we move towards the live position. Bishop to A6. Okay, and then we would expect like knight B4 to be coming.
Yeah, so we had A4, A5, Bishop E2, Bishop E7, castles, Knight C6, Bishop E3, Bishop A6. So I want to mention the plan that Ding Loren chose in his game was he at some point played this really fancy move Queen D2. For example, a move like 11 maybe, with the idea of transferring the queen to like F4, G4, and then it was like really well placed there, opens up the rook on D1, and that was interesting. Fedoseev goes his own way. He just plays Bishop E3, Bishop A6, and now it looks like he is in thought.
So let's just think of like basic plans by White trying to win the C4 pawn, just to understand how weak that pawn is or isn't. If White went for a move like Knight D2 here, attacking the pawn, Black could respond with Bishop takes B5, A takes B5, Knight takes D4.
Yeah.
So that's like a first level possibility here.
Right.
Oh, he's played Knight D2 anyway.
Knight D2 on the board. David with the early prediction.
I wasn't even predicting it though.
That's okay.
I was just trying to get into understanding the position here.
Guess the Move is my favorite commentator's game.
Yeah. I can't play Guess the Move though, because if I make a move, it just I think, let me see.
Oh yeah, I just meant like
it just makes it a variation because I'm a live presenter.
Yeah. Same. I just meant just us casually playing.
Yeah, we could play Guess the Move against each other one of these days and tally it.
I feel like, I mean, that's like the games aren't gonna be that quick, so we're gonna need something to use up the time.
Something to use up the time. Yeah, chess analysis. We're like, I mean, it's been a long time since we haven't watched a Blitz game where you're just talking as fast as you can to keep up, but we're actually going to get deep into some positions this week.
Right. And
start to learn some truths.
And it's really cool to see these guys actually playing this exact time control, because this is the dojo round robin time control. And hopefully the dojo students and players can like observe the pace of these guys. Like, they're taking their time, they're in the opening. I would imagine it's possible like all 4 players still are in book, in these lines. They've like seen this all before and they've looked at everything, but there's even then they would still be taking their time and just kind of like evaluating things, making sure they like the direction that the game is going. Basically no quick moves. Fast moves are like, they're almost unprofessional because you increase the risk of a like silly mistake or dumb blunder. And for these guys, I mean, that's like, they've made a career off of like not like making silly mistakes as little as possible, just as little as virtually possible.
So any chess students out there, in this position, Black has this outpost on D5. They could play queen to D5, supporting the C4 pawn and making way for the rook to come to D8 and pressure the D4 pawn even more. Do you guys see anything wrong with the idea of queen D5? It also threatens bishop takes b5, a takes b5, queen b5. Maybe it puts pressure on that b5 knight. Pulsey Dulcie, you think knight takes c7 would be a problem? You're correct. You're the first winner of today's Are You Awake challenge.
Nice.
The biggest problem with queen d5 is knight takes c7 check, followed by knight takes d5. You maintain that outpost by recapturing with the knight on b6, but it's not considered playable.
Yeah, Mitch, that's right. Like for top players, they often have multiple options in the opening. I mean, I can speak from experience as like a lowly, 2400. When I am playing an opening from Black's point of view, like my main opening, for example, if it was this line in particular, then maybe on this position after like knight takes b5, knight b6, a4, maybe here I'm like aware of options. Okay, I know a5 is a solid move, but if I want to play something aggressive, maybe like c6 is a line, or maybe there's something else. So I would usually have like maybe two options for all like the major variations. Something that I believe, okay, this is just the best, most solid, and then maybe a backup option if you're playing down or you need to play something a little bit more aggressive or playing for the win. You have like maybe a riskier variation. So I can only imagine how many options like these guys have at their disposal, because they're just like, they're often doing this full time.
Yeah. So what options do we see here for Jeffrey other than trading on b5 and taking d4? With the endangered c-pawn and Pulsey Dulcie telling us not to play queen d5.
Well, to be honest, I didn't really get the issue for Black there. So we put that on the board again. Knight takes d4. We have knight takes e2 coming with check. So this light square bishop is potentially a super dangerous piece, but I think Black is going to be able to trade it off very quickly. Maybe White just goes knight takes c4, knight e2, queen takes e2, and well, actually, I don't know. Maybe this starts to look a little bit unpleasant for Black with White having lead in development, rook fd1 coming.
The queen's probably going to go to like e8 or c8 to b7. Queen b8 to b7.
Feels like Black needs to just castle, but then knight takes a5 is also hanging, and then knight c6.
Right.
So maybe this is not a solution for Black.
And actually there's that outpost on c6, right? So there's also the idea of like rook d1, queen b8, knight b6, c b6, and then rook c1 to c6.
Yeah.
Or rook to d7 if our queen went to b8.
Yeah, something like this rook c1, rook c6 position just looks very pleasant for White. I mean, b6 is weak, 7th rank could be weak. White can play like queen g4, bishop h6, start attacking on the king side.
Okay. Yeah, again, this whole variation by Black involves getting slightly behind in development while getting those doubled isolated c-pawns. So you would think that it's strategically not dangerous for Black to trade off on b5 and take the d-pawn and just sort of simplify. But actually in that super simplified position, they're under real pressure with either the c or d file.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I don't know, I think Black has to come up with something else. So we just saw Jeffrey return to the room. I guess he was maybe in the bathroom or something. So he just saw knight d2, I think, for the first time.
Oh no, he lost 10 minutes in this critical position.
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't see him in the room.
That's costly.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Jesse once saying that he would have another 100 rating points if he had my bladder. That's a lot of time to lose here. But what options does Jeffrey have other than going to knight d4? So this is threatened. I'm really not seeing anything else, Kostya. Like,
Yeah,
what else is he supposed to do? Play this whole position down a pawn?
hanging.
Let white just take on c4.
Let's see. Yeah, we already covered queen d5. So that's not an option. I would guess he has something up his sleeve, but we'll see. He's not immediately making a move. He's definitely seems to be in thought. So he'll just have to show us.
Okay. He'll just have to show us.
How are they ensuring players aren't cheating in the bathroom? I don't think they are. I mean, it's...
Oh, yeah. Good call. We didn't get to watch him use the bathroom, did we?
I think there were some rules in the tournament that I played in, like you're allowed to go to the bathroom, but I think you have to like send a message to the TD or something if you're leaving your webcam, and you can't do it more than like maybe 2 times a game or something, because these were like G60, so these weren't super long. Oh, actually, the organizer's watching. He just told me bathroom they allow once per hour and no use of it after 2 hours.
Oh, interesting. So maybe it was very, very clever bathroom usage by Jeffrey. Like, make sure to get it out of the way before he gets into the illegal part of the of the schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thanks, Blue Crew. I didn't know I was a little bit lower. Yeah, let me try to raise myself up. Thanks for letting me know. By the way,
ever since Topalov and Kramnik, it's like you can't talk about chess without thinking about the bathroom anymore. It's like it's always a factor in every chess game now, you know. And there's like pictures all over the internet of like, you know, people in like a bathroom stall with like a computer program on their phone.
Right. No, I mean, yeah. Now, ever since that match, it's become such a it's just like in the back of everyone's minds. Man, that drama was crazy though. People talk about chess drama like nowadays as if like things are all crazy and dramatic, but like can you imagine like a world championship match with just like accusations of cheating from both sides, really? And just all kinds of that's definitely that's a day you can spend on Wikipedia just reading about Toiletgate.
But I was alive then, Ghost. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was talking to the group.
You think we've got people here who don't remember that, who are too young for it? I guess so.
Oh, 100%. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, Neil Deal, for instance, I think he's a teen. He's like, what happened in... Yeah, people are too young. No, a lot of people just got into chess. I mean, like, in the last 2 years, they don't...
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, then read up about Toiletgate.
Yeah. Right, for us, I mean, it's like, oh man, it was crazy. I mean, I was pretty young too, so I wasn't like... I hadn't been in the chess world for that long at that point to understand just like how insane that was. But living through it, yeah, I do remember it was pretty bizarre. Almost couldn't believe it was happening. Now we actually have more games we could look at. Apparently they have a Rising Star group. So in the Zoom call, we noticed there's all these other like strong GMs playing, like Andreas Penko, Amin Tadabaye, Parham, A Wonder. We don't know why these guys are here, but I guess they're playing their own like tournament, so we can pull up some of their games too.
Okay.
Yeah, like here we got Esipenko playing against Tadabaye. He's Tabatabaye. There we go.
Nice. Nailed it.
He's one of the Iranian superstars. Not as well known as like Firouzja and Parham, but he's super strong. I think he's maybe 18, 19, 20, and 2,600 or so.
Yeah.
And then we have A Wonder playing against Parham as well. But I think we should check in with the other main game first between Lekwang Liam and Shock. I guess we didn't have too much to discuss here. It's not the most exciting of positions, but let's switch to their cams, we can update everyone.
Yep. So bishop e7 was linked with putting the queen on b6. And other than that, not too much to say yet about this position. But the main plans from here would probably be knight maneuvers for either player. Like Liam could go for knight d4 with the idea of trading knights and playing bishop d4 and making the black queen awkward. Or he could try in some position to play knight e4 and trade that knight to increase the pressure along the long diagonals. And he could also go for knight b3, knight to c5.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I feel like all the tempos are the same. So it's as if, it's like white gets the first move, he puts his rook here. If black puts the rook on c8, he's still kind of mirroring. So yeah, so far it's like, how is white going to use the advantage of the first move? Not super clear yet.
Yeah.
But I guess this knight on c6, can we say this one is awkward because it's in the way of the bishop? Would it be better on...
Instead of being on d7? I mean, dc5 had already been played. Shock knew it was this pawn structure, and he played knight c6 on purpose instead of bishop takes c5.
Right.
That definitely surprised me at that point, because I usually play this position with the knight on d7.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's some theoretical reason why here knight d7 is just not good. Maybe white goes b4. I don't know. But I guess there is something concrete.
You would take with your bishop before you play knight bd7 here.
Mm-hmm.
So as not to allow b4. So the question is, what's wrong with just bishop takes c5?
I guess bishop takes b5 might work.
There you go. You solved it.
Yep. So that's why we get knight c6.
Trickery. So that's why we get this whole thing. Okay, so it's very possible that knight c6 was played because he had to, not because this is some preference of his to have the knight on that square. So in that case, he may be under some tiny extra smidge of pressure, right? From one piece being slightly awkwardly placed, maybe.
I think so. It's definitely a problem piece that feels like black will have to figure out. I mean, if white is just allowed to play knight b3, knight c5, I mean, black doesn't want to give up the bishop pair here, so it is something for Shock to think about here.
Yeah, there was a suggestion from chat that a5 might be a way to play here for black to try and I mean, the person in chat, I think, said a5 draw or a5 equal or something like that, but I think, to put it into like specific terms, yeah, they just said draw. To put it in sort of concrete terms, the idea would be to liquidate pawns on the queen side in order to reduce, the sphere white has to try and build their advantage. But after a5, b takes a5, how do we recapture? If we take back with the knight, then we've blocked the a file, and white can play bishop b5, and they're up a pawn for the moment.
Yeah, bishop d4, right? A4. I think they consolidate. Yep.
Seems solidly up a pawn with a4 coming when they want. So b takes a5. If we go queen a5, then we have to calculate like knight b3, and then if we go queen a4, there's knight c5.
I think maybe bishop takes b5 is also good, just because we're hitting c6 there.
Oh, right. That was the other thing I'd seen before. Yeah. If the queen takes, then the knight on c6 isn't defended, so there's, again, bishop b5. That's right. And that leaves rook takes a5, which is perhaps the way to go.
Well, then maybe
if we want to look at a5.
Again, we throw a knight b3.
Knight b3. Let's put the rook on a4. At least in this case... Oh, no. On a4, bishop b5 hits the rook.
Yeah.
So we'll play rook all the way back to a8.
Safe. This would be critical. Because if white takes on b5, black takes on a3.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, if white has tactics there, then it doesn't work for black. But
Right. So what I would want to play next there is like knight d4, but
Right.
that doesn't defend a3, does it?
yeah, I mean it's a natural move, yeah. But it right, black might just be able to take on a3 anyway. So
And
maybe this is what Shock is thinking about. Because if black can just liquidate, that would be really nice. But maybe there's other issues. I'm not sure.
yeah. White could, in some case, have the idea of answering bishop a3 with bishop f6, although in my calculations, he'd have to take the rook off of c1 to do that, because right now, I don't see enough of a white attack to be sacking an exchange on c1 yet.
Wait, can you repeat that?
Yeah, there's an idea for white that when the bishop on e7 would take on a3, you could maybe take on f6. Right, to damage the kingside structure. But I don't think you can do that with a rook on c1, because I don't see justification for an exchange sack here. So...
Oh, I see.
So I looked at that idea as well, that Blue Crew is supplying, and I thought that I didn't want to allow bishop takes c1.
So it'd be something like this, take, bishop takes f6, take on c1. Yeah, some kind of mess.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. My first thought would be to maybe take on g7 as white, and then take on c1, but it's not like... Yeah, it's like white's minor pieces somehow feel kind of far away from black's king. So to me it feels very unclear. Oh, we got a move from Jeffrey.
Yeah.
So he's decided to just go full sack. Maybe not full pawn sack.
Yeah. Yeah, he just completely gives that weak-looking doubled pawn on c4, and if you showed this to a master from the 1920s, 100 years ago, they would say, that is exactly what happens to the weak pawn.
So dogmatic.
They would say, the noob allowed their pawns to be isolated and doubled, and quickly the pawn fell.
Right.
But seriously, this is like a pawn sack. Black's got a backward c pawn. White's pieces are on good squares. Is it not a stretch to understand this?
It's definitely a stretch. I don't really... Well, I kind of see it with knight cb4 coming.
Mm-hmm.
And we have seen, positional sacrifice before. If we imagine, if the only structure we look at is just d4, e5, and white has like 5 versus 4 pawns, and black has this outpost on d5 as compensation, this is definitely a very, very legitimate thing. But yeah, it kind of depends whether white can put pressure and break through, because white has bishop f3, rook c1, so many moves to build up.
Right. But I would also say, like, if black's just blockading on d5, right? Like, if white puts a rook on c1 and black just kind of goes knight b4, white can always answer c6 with knight b to d6, it looks like, if not knight a3. So
yeah,
let's
nice
say black's able to hold the c file on the d5 square, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then my concern for black would be, what if white goes f4, f5? Because Black certainly hasn't played c5. He's not restraining. Like, if you compare this to French kind of positions, in a French position, you would try and keep white from playing f5 by attacking d4 and e5. But here, Black's kind of in this mode of just trying to blockade the D and C files and B files at the moment. So if white played f4, f5, it might be kind of free.
Yeah. No, I think this f4, f5 plan is very, very real, especially in these QGA structures where black often gets the knight on d5. This is a big plan. I would imagine black has to, well, basically do as you said, like put enough pressure with something like rook a d8 so that on f4 we are always maybe threatening to take on e3, take on b5, take on d4, put pressure on this pawn.
Right.
So definitely with the bishop on e3, it feels difficult for white to maybe achieve this plan. But we'll see how it plays out. Honestly, I really love games when GMs just like give up a pawn and then they just like play the position, because they just show that like, yeah, even at the very highest level, you can give a pawn, play for some compensation, and it's like, yeah, losing material is not the worst thing in the world.
So you're saying Ding wanted to play this position with his queen on g4, huh?
Yeah.
But then he couldn't have just won the c pawn as easily because he was doing that. So
Right.
maybe another interesting idea is, can Big Fish, now that he's taken the pawn, play bishop d3, queen g4, maybe with rooks on c1 and d1.
Yeah, that's another plan here that looks really interesting, actually. Because if we don't break through with bishop f3, then we're just gonna want the bishop on this other diagonal anyway.
Yeah. Supporting our knight outposts as well. And there's another plan which you'll be familiar with from the French coast. You have going like g3, h4.
Yeah.
And king g2, rook h1, and attacking on the king side like that. Definitely some concerns about bishop b7, but depending where our light squared bishop is, we may be able to cover it with bishop f3 and play a plan like that. So it's many plans for white. For black, I have my eye on maybe playing c5 at some point with the idea of dc5, knight e3. And then recapturing on c5. I mean, it still leaves me down a pawn. It's just like it's just one like button I can press if I'm getting rolled over on the king side, maybe.
Right. Yeah, no, I think it could get really tough for black here really quickly. So, by the way, fun fact, I have a plus score against this group, and I've played more than one player. So it's not like I just beat someone once and that was it.
In this super tournament here?
In the super tournament, I got a plus score against the 4 players. That's right.
What?
Yeah, any guesses as to what the score was?
What the score was, who you played? I mean, are you saying tournament games or blitz games or what?
Over the board classical normal tournament games.
Over the board classical normal games. I mean, Jeffrey's an American kid. It's possible that it's more likely that you've played him than that you've played Mamedyarov or Fedoseev. Lei Kwang Liam's been living in the U.S. I'm gonna guess that you've drawn Lei Kwang Liam and beaten Jeffrey.
Wow, that's pretty good. Yeah, in fact, I've beaten Jeffrey. I managed to beat him twice before he got really good.
Wow.
Although he was, to be fair, he was pretty good. I think the first time he was already like FM and higher rated than me, and then the second time I think he was IM.
Right. Because I was going to say, I mean, he's gone up like fast enough, and you're young enough that he was never like it was never a chance for you to play him when he was like 2,000 and you were 2,400. I mean, he was always pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in the sweet spot of hitting all of our top juniors right before they got good. I got Jeffrey Zhang, got huge plus score against Sevian. He's not going to catch up.
Unless he plays you like a 20-game match because he hears this.
Right. No, that's because Sevilla, like he grew up in California, so I saw him in a lot of a lot of open tournaments when he was, just starting out. So yeah, I got some lucky wins there. And then yeah, I got lucky and I drew Likwang Liam once in St. Louis a couple of years back. So +2 against the field. That's my score.
+2 against the field. That's crazy. That's crazy. Crazy nice. Well, I did manage to play against Jeffrey Xiong when he was a little kid and slightly lower rated than me, but it didn't help me. He still beat me. He must have only been like 12 years old or something, but he was like, 2400 or 2390, and I was like 2410. I don't know, maybe like 10 points higher rated than him, and he played an extremely good game against me.
It was already late. Yeah, I also managed to scalp Wonder Liang a couple times, and Nihal Sarin, I managed to catch him when he was in IM a few years ago in Isle of Man.
Jeez.
Yeah, that was probably maybe, I feel like as quickly as Nihal Sarin improved, because like he was 2450 when we played, and then next year he was like 2550. That was probably like the highest possible rating he could have been, where I could still get him.
What do you mean? You could still beat anyone in a game.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, like, within reason.
Yeah.
And we have Knight C3 by
Knight
Fedasave.
C3. Somewhat unexpected, right?
Yeah, we weren't expecting this, but it's very logical to just challenge Black's Knight on D5. I would imagine Black just reinforces with Knight B4, but maybe White has something in mind.
I suppose so. I mean, Black showed a reluctance to trade pieces, actually. Because when White played Knight C4, was going for Knight C4, Black could have played this with, just trading the Knight on B6 and moving the C6 Knight to B4, D5, but he purposely dodged out of the way of one Knight, so the other comes to trade with him.
Yeah. No, to be honest, I really don't get this move. I just feel like the Knight on B5, I mean, it's hard to imagine a scenario where Black wants to really take it, unless there was some threat with Bishop B5 and something, but I don't...
Bishop B5, A B5, Knight moves, White takes on A5.
Yeah, like...
so bad, right?
Yeah. So it's like a really interesting move, Knight C3. I'm really surprised, because I feel like I would never play this move. To me, it would just be like, okay, Knight on B5 is good. So my options are Bishop D3, Bishop F3, Queen D2.
And Rook C1.
Rook C1, yeah,
exactly. Just put your Rook on the open file.
So how he came to this decision, actually, maybe if we can get him on the interview later, it would be really interesting we should remember to ask him about this moment, just because this move is very non-obvious.
Yeah. By the time the interview rolls around, there's going to be a million questions, but we'll probably have forgotten them all.
I know. No, it'll be hours ago, this moment.
So, after thinking for a while, Shock did play A5.
Oh, cool.
So Icy Stun correctly predicted that.
Icy +1, nice.
Yeah. And then I'd like to look at Magsudlu. A Wonder versus Magsudlu for a moment. Do you have a plus score against this group also?
Yes,
it's
because I've only played a Wonder.
You've only played a Wonder?
And although the last time we played, he beat me very handily with Black. I should mention that. But yeah, I managed to beat him a couple of times before that, so tough luck. Yeah, let me pull up this game. Actually, I can bring up...
You've got a plus score against both sections, the whole tournament. Everything, everybody.
That's true. Basically like +3, yeah, against the field.
Well, maybe for next round, we'll have you play and have Jeffrey comment. Just tell him, like, Jeffrey, we're not sure you're good enough to be playing this event. I think we're going to switch roles for you and Kostya.
Okay, I got a question for you, David. Let's say they let you play the event under an alias. Let's just say they said that it was I don't know, some 2700 playing Watashek, whatever.
Yeah. And
then you just take a spot and you play for him. Do you think you would do better than if you just played as yourself?
Not much. I think the players would pretty quickly figure it out.
They're not Watashek.
Yeah, I think after a very short time, they'd be like, You know, it's like when you're playing like a blitz game against somebody and you're like, this guy is too good. This must be a computer. You know that feeling, or like this could be a computer, right? Like, whoa, really good. They'd have the opposite, right? They'd be like, he's bad cheating. Like, there's no way, there's no way this is Wojtaszek. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's not a good choice because he's like super well prepared. He plays like d4, c4.
You're not going to come up with a 2700 where they wouldn't know it was me.
Oh, no. How about Jobava?
Yeah, actually, he's got days that are that bad. Good call.
But I guess Jobava's not great because they know that he plays super sharp and risky, so they would already be looking to like punish him, right? If he goes crazy. They'd
be like, great, it's one of those days.
I do feel like my style is one where if I was just like, if they just told Fedoseev that I'm 2750 and we just had this, like, we could have like a very tense battle, you know, it'd be really back and forth. I don't think I would go down because I think he would play with a lot of respect. He wouldn't like go crazy himself. Whereas if we just play normally, like the guy could play Shigorin or whatever, just do whatever he wants basically and just outplay me. I don't know. I think it's like that. It's like that psychological experiment where if you put a human brain inside of a tiger's brain, that tiger will then lose fights to other tigers because it's afraid. And I imagine the reverse is true. If you put a tiger brain in a human, that human will win a lot of fights.
And just see somebody else and be like, you look like just like some meat on a platter.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's see. Let me see if I can get a Wonder and Parham up real quick.
Cool. Because they're doing something pretty fun.
Yeah, their game looks really interesting. Grunfeld, early h4, h5.
Yeah. And who would have thought that the way you would try and neutralize this would be trying to trade the badly placed bishop on b5 with a lengthy maneuver? I mean, where black came up with this bishop c4 plan, I have no idea. And white played bishop b5 on purpose. To what purpose, I don't know.
You know, this one I can I can speak to.
I have an idea. Okay, cool. Tell us.
Well, let me get the webcams up first. But
all right. And I've recently seen Kostya play a terrible h4 game against the Grunfeld.
True.
So I guess he does have some experience with how not to play this as white.
Yeah, we got some thoughts on this stuff. Wait, here we go. All right, doing a lot of things.
All right, you do your things. I'll tell everybody one thought about bishop b5 might be that it's to prevent the move knight c6 from black attacking this pawn with pieces. The move c5 doesn't look very effective in this position, which is the classic Grunfeld move, c5, because there isn't a pawn hanging on c3 for bishop takes c3. That means white could either just take on c5 or push d5, both of which look fine for white. So c5, I would say, is almost not in the realm of like plausible moves for black here. So, but white in his head already wanted to just run his h-pawn and tear black apart. So Wonder figured what black's going to react if I throw my h-pawn is he's going to play knight c6, attack the d-pawn with pieces. If white plays d5, then he can go knight e5 to c4, knight a5 to c4, and play e6 and c6 to crack open the center. So white just pops that bishop on b5 to prepare for knight c6, or sort of try and rule out knight c6. That said, Kostya's going to have to step in to tell us why black couldn't have just played, you know, a6, kicking the bishop, and then knight c6 anyway.
Yeah, so basically this has been known for a while. I used to play this bishop d2, Grunfeld line, bishop e3, and yeah, this is what we would call a disappearing move. I don't know if you've heard that term, but
no.
Oh yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the idea, but basically it's like a provocative move. The point is we ask black, because yeah, knight c6 we might be able to take and just ruin the structure. So we ask black to either play a6 or c6 or bishop d7 or something to challenge the bishop. And then the idea would be like a6, bishop e2 to go back. And the reason we call this a disappearing move, because it's like the move bishop b5 never took place. Once white plays bishop b5, bishop e2, kind of looks like white just played bishop b2 in the opening, and then it's like, well, where did this move a6 come from? So the concrete details of this, I don't exactly remember. There are some lines where this knight on b6 ends up loose, actually, because black played a6, and now, for example, whenever they play c5, then the knight on b6 is kind of hanging, so there are some lines where this becomes relevant. And yeah, there's a small drawback to basically anything else black can do here, like c6, bishop e2, the knight doesn't have the c6 square, bishop d7, the bishop goes back, and then the queen is blocked on d4, black doesn't get as much counterplay. So there's all these like little nuances behind this move. But it has
I guess it's the a6 one that's the most nuanced to me. Like, I see how c6 is a problem because it blocks knight c6, and as I was saying, c5 looks terrible, so I don't know what you do next after c6. And bishop d7, bishop e2, and then knight c6 doesn't threaten the pawn. I like that, and the bishop doesn't really have anywhere to go other than back to c8 to do what black wants to do. Right. So I like that very much, but the a6 is quite subtle to me.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely like kind of surprising. Bishop e6 makes sense. I imagine this is some theory. But then h4 played after 16.5 minutes by a wonder. And long think here for Parame, almost 10 minutes on bishop c4, and then another super long think on h5. So I don't know. So some players, they have this reputation, like Grischuk, that even though he spends a lot of time, a lot of the time he'll spend time in a position that he's prepared before, that he knows. Like he's already looked at h4, h5, and yet he will still spend time. I wonder. I don't really get the same.
Figuring out his grocery list?
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, he just thinks about the position. It's very strange, actually. I mean, but he'll be in book for like 22 moves, right? And he'll like be down to 20 minutes, even though he was still in his like prep.
So he spent like over an hour like just sort of like getting into things.
Yeah. I mean, it feels very strange, but it's hard to argue with something that works for a player as strong as Grischuk.
Right. I mean, what can you like? How can you say something's not working if the player is 2780 or whatever? Yeah, I hear you on that. It's God, it's just shockingly odd. I mean,
right. No, it is definitely a good habit to kickstart your brain before you're out of book. And I mean, David, you mentioned that advice, like just thinking before a tournament game or trying to warm yourself up by just calculating. But
I'll do that before the game starts or on my opponent's time if they're thinking during the opening. But like, I won't spend like an hour of my time being warmed up and then not have any time on the clock to actually use the fact that I'm warmed up. Although I guess it's like for Grischuk, it's like then he just plays blitz at a really high level because he's so warm.
Yeah. Or the other thing is, it's just like maybe a good chunk of his, extremely deep understanding just comes from this process of doing his own human analysis of positions, just looking at a position, trying to understand things. Okay, what happens if I go knight f3, knight g5? Yeah, I mean, I get stuck in that a little bit too. If I have a move that's kind of prepped, but I see other options in the position, or I see options that I haven't looked at for my opponent, and I'm like, ooh, what am I going to do on this move? Actually, I didn't look at this. So I think other players will do this as well. Especially, you might want to bluff your opponent. You might not want to let them know that you're in your prep. I would say this is specifically useful when you have some traps prepared. For instance, if you play some line and you know like the natural moves for your opponent aren't really working out, then that would make sense to kind of hide the fact that you're in prep so that they're more likely to just play their kind of typical plan, whatever it is, in the Grunfeld or King's Indian or Sicilian.
Right.
Whereas if they know you're in prep, then your opponent is going to be like ultra careful and vigilant and calculating everything and trying not to get caught in any traps. But with this game, I'm not sure. It kind of feels like an over-the-board inspiration by a wonder, and he's still thinking, even though it's Black's move. He's clearly focused on something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do like throwing H-pawns in my own life. And I do fail to see what Black's going for just yet. Like how they're really going to generate counterplay. This bishop maneuver does not yet really impress. But I also don't yet see how White's going to win. So, I mean, win is a strong word, right? But I mean, progress things from here, right? At some point, White's going to play HG, I think, and then I don't really know what's next on the menu.
Well, we got bishop takes b5 on the board, and I wonder is like thinking. It's so fascinating, you know. Of course, he's going to play knight takes b5, but he's
like thinking.
I mean, not thinking, but his head is in his hands, and
that's thinking.
You know, I don't see him like hovering with his knight over b5.
Right. Now, does he have a real chessboard or just the chess.com screen?
I don't see a real chessboard next to a Wonder or Parham, actually, which is interesting.
Okay.
We just have the webcam view of Parham, but we have his I see his setup on Zoom as well. So yeah, the younger generation actually no boards. Yeah, Andre no board, and Amin also no board. Jeffrey no board. But Lekwang Liam, Mamanjarov, and let's see, Fedoseev. Oh, Fedoseev also seems like no board.
Yeah.
Okay, knight takes b5. Yep, of course. I think White.
Like, good move. You found it. You found it.
Is that +1 for you? You were saying. b5. It is possible for White to play h6. We've seen AlphaZero do this. We saw Magnus do this a bunch of times recently against the Grunfeld. This is a really dangerous idea. Just long term, puts a lot of pressure on Black's king side, creates back rank issues. It's just kind of like a long term strategic problem, but it does give up on any ideas of checkmate for White. So it's kind of more of a strategic thing.
Sucks to give up on checkmate, but if there's no way to give checkmate, then I guess you're not really giving much up. And I don't yet see how White is planning to give checkmate.
Yeah, especially without the light squared bishop on this diagonal. Seems like
I mean, I can see the White queen going through g4 to h4 or something. Then Black plays rook e8. Then queen h7 and bishop h6 could be a way. But if Black's traded our bishop with the knight, then we've got even more work to do. We have a suggestion of playing hg, hg, and then bishop h6 there, perhaps, to get rid of that bishop before anything happens.
My feeling is that the center is too open and White is too underdeveloped for this to really work.
But if we want to weaken the Black king, now is like the chance to do it, right? I mean, if we allow knight e3, then that option is gone, and we've got a weird pawn structure. Hg, bishop h6.
Does White mind Black taking on e3 here that much? I mean, maybe he
I don't
does.
know if we mind. It's just like if we wanted to checkmate.
Oh,
right. If we wanted to checkmate, and we don't go for bishop h6 right now, then we'll probably never checkmate. If I play hg, queen b3, knight c4, fe3, I'm not saying that White's position is terrible, but it doesn't look like you're playing for checkmate.
Right. So yeah, we'd have to go for bishop h6, and okay, some queen c1. But this is the issue, you know, it's like maybe White wants to give checkmate, but at this level it's really about what's achievable.
Okay.
Yeah. But I often find at lower levels, players are just kind of they're just going for what they want without really
Just going for what they want. Yeah, that makes sense. I do that, so just go for what I want.
All right, let's see. We'll jump back to the other games as soon as we get some developments. We can check out the final game in the Rising Star group. We'll see what. I guess we can talk a little bit about what else I wonder might do. I do feel like a structure, let's say with knight f3 and takes, would be very playable for white. Maybe trying to bring back like knight c3, e5, knight e4. But I'm not.
It doesn't seem unplayable. It's just the plan's not so clear for white, and it doesn't feel like black is struggling, really. I would agree that long castling is quite plausible for white, like 9 Guy is saying. But I guess I'm still struggling to see the plans materialize for either side.
Right.
Black's going to want to attack d4 and see what white does about it.
Maybe white tries to just go full dominance with h6. Say black takes on e3, we recapture, bishop h8, knight f3, and then e5. Just trying to play against the bishop.
Against that piece.
But I'm really unclear about this kind of thing, because I just feel like sometimes black just plays f6 and just breaks out. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
c5.
Also, the moment black has traded on e3, they can play c5.
Yeah.
And they can start engaging with white there. So then white's trying to defend d4. They can no longer really play d takes c5. It feels like the white structure is getting kind of brittle, right? Like almost nothing in the structure can move, and white's defending everything. To try and lock up that bishop, I guess there are some cases where you could make it work out, but you also need to find a home for your king so he doesn't get in the crossfire of that whole battle. Maybe it's possible. Maybe it's possible, but as you said, there's f6 coming as well.
Yeah,
but f6 is a lot harder to play with h6, bishop h8, because your king's almost, defenseless on that b3 diagonal.
Yeah, very true.
Almost nowhere to go. I think that's a big part of how h6 can actually work, is that it makes f6 hard to play.
Well, let's see. Yeah, let's get over to the other game in the Rising Star group.
Okay.
So this is Andrei Esipenko playing white from Russia against Amin Tabatabaye. Are you familiar with Esipenko at all? Have you covered him before?
Very little. Obviously I've been watching him. And he's extremely good. But I haven't commented any tournaments that he's been in.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And these players are showing their rapid ratings on chess.com, not their FIDE ratings.
That's right.
Just on this one board, I think.
Oh, really?
So that could be surprising someone looking at some of the other ones. Oh no, Fedoseev is also showing a chess.com rapid rating of 2253, whereas the other people seem to have their FIDE ratings programmed in. Okay, so anyway, these players are each in the 2600s. I think Tabatabaye is about 2630. and Esipenko probably like 2660 or so.
Right. And he's very good. He played in, I think he played in the B group of Waikanze earlier this year. Esipenko did. Very, like, strong player. I feel like he's got a very technical style from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, could easily be, I think, one of, like, Russia's next big superstars.
Oh, yeah, I just looked. His rating's actually up to 2680. So he gained another 20 points just at the beginning of this year.
Oh, nice. Do we have
before the virus shut down tournaments, and he is 1 year younger than Tabatabay, who is 19, and Esipenko is 18.
Oh, so he's 18. Okay, he's a little bit older than I thought, but 2680 at 18 is still very much within elite range, I would say.
Yeah.
I feel like Fedoseev was probably not much higher than that. Fedoseev is another really interesting player we can talk about because I feel like his projection is because he's like a little bit younger than Nepo, but to me they feel very similar. Like they're both super strong. They're like young Russian talents. At some point they get stuck at like 2730, 2740 for a little while. And Nepo broke through to 2800, I think, just in the last few years. I feel like Fedoseev hasn't broken through yet, but like totally could in the very near future. Tons of potential there.
Yeah.
All right.
And Fedoseev has specifically had some breakthroughs in like, rapid chess. I mean, he's really good at blitz and rapid.
Yeah.
But in classical, still lacking something that the very top players have. What do you think of this Rui Lopez? It seems pretty correct by both white and black to me.
Yeah, seems pretty okay. I'm just going to go back. It seems like this was... Oh, not our Breyer. This was actually kind of an offbeat line from white. It's Berlin. Okay, so Berlin. We get D3, D6. And essentially we transpose into like a classical Rui Lopez structure. Black goes B5, bishop C2, bishop B7, knight G3, G6. So as far as like the classical Rui, where white would normally have his pawn on D4 and H3, if black had played this setup, I think this is known as like the Zaitsev variation with rook E8, bishop B7. Here it's very similar, and white goes D4, bishop G7, bishop G5, and then here black plays knight B8, kind of similar to the Breyer system. And I'm not a huge Breyer expert. I imagine that this could be like a direct transposition or something very close to it. The tempos are a little bit weird.
A little bit better for black than the normal one, I'm going to say, because white's played D3, D4 in 2 moves compared to that. So that should be one tempo for black compared to the normal main line. And then also, eventually in this game, white played Queen C1, Queen C2, which I think was maybe not losing a tempo, but not really improving white's situation. So my guess would be that black has a very, very nice version of the Rui here.
Cool. I would feel like at the very least black doesn't have anything to be sad about, because black hasn't made one move that we could really even single out as like, oh, maybe this is questionable. As everything makes sense. Knight B8, C6, King H7, and now he's gone C5, so he's trying to break.
My first instinct would definitely be to play D5 for white.
Right.
Just because black's got 2 fianchettoed bishops, and fianchettoed bishops don't like closed centers. I don't feel like there's anything likely for white in this A takes B5 kind of move. I mean, first of all, we don't think white's winning a pawn because After AB, bishop b5, the queen on c2 is not defended, and black can play c takes d4. And then my guess would be that those resulting positions, having not won a pawn, will not be good for white.
Yeah. Mitch, I think Mitch was asking about the d3 line, like white played here versus the endgame. I think it just depends on the player. Some players prefer to go into the endgame. Some players prefer to play a middle game. I think theoretically, black stands fine basically everywhere. So it's all just a matter of where you think you can pose some problems for the opponent.
Yeah. Then there are different approaches to it. You know, I mean, a lot of times after d3, a lot of black players play bishop c5, trying to develop freely, and then a lot of white players trade on c6. And so you get sort of like a maneuvering version of an exchange Rui is very common for people playing d3. Mm-hmm. And here we got something that's much more like a normal mainline Rui that they maneuvered.
Yeah. So from the d3 Berlin, right, you can get like a Spanish exchange structure, you can get a classical Rui, or you can get more of like an Italian game type of position. So I feel like it's kind of a better choice for white, because if you just work on the Berlin endgame, you basically know how to play that one endgame. That's basically it. Like you never get that structure anywhere else.
Yeah, it's pretty unique what you would learn from it.
Right.
Okay, he's played d5.
Yeah, d5 on the board.
Yeah. It seemed like he had to, and against this move, I don't see like an obvious solution for black to the game, so that's a nice thing. Like it both makes sense from my super high level strategic sense, but also when I looked at like cb4 from black and maybe trading queens, maybe going knight b6, I didn't see any like clear, you know, full solution to the game for black.
Right.
By playing that way. So
well, we got c4
maintaining the play.
And bishop f1. Now c4 is surprising. I'm curious to see what he has in mind here, because
I think knight b6 to a4.
Wow.
Because if you don't resolve this right away, then there's this plan for white of playing like rook a2 and rook e to a1 and bishop e3, and white really holds that tension over your head. Mm-hmm. So I think you want to make white commit immediately here with knight b6. In a position where if white trades on b5, I don't think it's very good for white. Actually, I mean, I feel weird saying anything about the Rui given my dismal Rui skills and track record and knowledge, but but nevertheless, it feels to me like trading on b5 is just nothing for white. Black can quickly trade a rook or two on the a file and then block it with knight a4 if needed. To me, the interesting question is if white plays a5, where does the knight go?
Right.
Because I think it would probably not want to go to a4 then.
Yeah, because here it feels like the knight just gets misplaced anyway. White just has to keep this bishop on d2 and can just start playing on the king side, like h3, knight h4, queen c1, and so on.
From a certain chess perspective, a4 is a protected outpost, and c3 is the base of that pawn chain, right? So there's like a theoretical world in which it's like knight a4 is amazing, and game's locked up. You know, what wouldn't you give for an outpost? But
if you live in this
he's attacking c3, I feel like it's a position where it's very cheap for white to keep c3 defended, and you actually, with that trapped knight, have to watch out for a maneuver from white like knight d2, knight takes c4.
Yeah. Imagine this
really something to watch out for.
Right.
Or white could ignore you and attack on the king side.
Right. So it seems like, I mean, knight b6 is fascinating, and you know, black played, okay, so this was probably the idea with c5, because he spent like 15 minutes on c5, and then c4 came pretty quickly, and knight b6 even faster. Yeah, it feels like maybe he's provoking a5 just to go back with knight d7, or I don't know, knight c8, knight e7, and I guess he feels like he can hold white on the queen side. I always felt in the Ruy Lopez, if white can shut down the on the king side, if white can shut down the queen side, then he just has like this free hand to attack. But maybe black doesn't feel like white will be able to do much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that knight will probably run over to the king side. So it could go knight d7 to f8, or it could go knight to c8 to e7 to g8.
Yeah.
If white plays, yeah, I mean maybe the king side is narrow enough and he can cram enough pieces over there to defend the area. He definitely, based on the time usage, he seems like the confident player here. If we look at it, like he's played everything quite fast except for c5 where he thought a long time.
There it is. There's his idea. Nice.
Whoa.
Yeah, we really should have mentioned this.
We should have seen this coming, you think?
Yeah, actually, it is. This is thematic, especially in the Briar, to sack the knight for these 2 pawns.
Okay.
And I actually remember Josh Friedel coming on Jesse's show, and they were analyzing a similar position, and this was like his first idea in like something pretty similar.
Okay.
So he's like, just go for this sack. No, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, these 2 pawns start rolling.
Bishops thank him.
The 2 bishops, yeah, and I mean, I guess the thing that makes the most sense for me is just looking at the position where black doesn't sack and not feeling very inspired. So that kind of makes sense as to why you would want to open things up.
Well, this still has to be at least playable. Otherwise, it's a very dramatic solution to, a maneuvering position.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is how black fights back, and white just goes h4.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a nice flex.
Because h5 is annoying to black's structure.
Yeah, but that's a real flex. I mean, that's him showing that he saw the sack coming with a5. And he's like, okay, well, this is what I had against it. And I don't know, actually, Andre doesn't look too worried. Maybe it's just good Russian poker face, but he really seems unconcerned with what black is doing.
Well, why should he be worried?
I don't know. I always get scared when my opponent sacks something.
I mean, I can understand somewhat the sack, but it doesn't seem like white should be like terrified. Black's not mating you. You've got, all your pieces in position. If black played a move like f5, if it hadn't been white's move, white didn't play h4. If black plays f5, I feel like you could play knight f5 and not be too bad for white. If black plays f5 and e4, you could play knight takes e4 and not be too bad. So I don't think white was in a situation where like they're getting completely crushed. But if they play h4 h5, they could even establish a really strong advantage for white.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I mean h5 is a very annoying threat just to weaken black's pawns, and then because it's only 2 pawns. So yeah, if these pawns aren't really strong, then black is just lost because like they're just down a piece that's gonna dominate. With 3 pawns, I think you can have a little bit of like flexibility, but with 2 pawns, not really. Like everything has to be good in your position.
Yeah. And wow, I'm impressed, Kostya, in the chat. Like, I mean, every single chess fan is like aware of this plan. They're not. Nobody's shocked, and they're all saying, "Oh, I saw this in this game. I saw it in that game. I've played this like in this opening."
Yeah, it is thematic. I mean, I've never played the Briar, but I know enough to know that this is a thing.
Yeah.
That Polgar vs. Bakro game, yeah, very, very nice, very famous game.
Well, there's my problem. You guys all remember a million games that I don't.
Oh, you should check out this game.
But apparently then I'll forget it, so.
Oh.
But yeah, okay, I should check out the game.
Yeah. No, I think that's like Bakro's like his like immortal game, basically.
Okay.
Now
everyone wants to have one of those.
We've got some interesting developments actually in Awonder versus Parham. Looks like Awonder is playing for checkmate with his queen now on h4. That's a direct threat.
Yep. To me, the response from Parham is easier than the play for white, right? Like as soon as white traded on g6, I take away that bishop before it can go to h6, right? And then as soon as white's dark squared bishop is traded, I play c5 for black. This seems pleasant for black. I mean, as long as he remembers to move the rook on f8.
Right. Yeah, I mean, well, I wonder is he thinking? No, he's away from the board. Okay, so I don't think he's
away
going to
from
be.
the board?
Yeah, he's not there. So probably knight c3.
There's
has to
another
be played.
25 minutes left where it's allowable to go to the bathroom. Is that right, Kostya? 2 hours?
Yeah, according to the organizer, after the 2-hour mark, they are not allowed. Although I feel like with this group of players, because they know everyone, I don't know, I kind of feel like they might be a little bit more lenient. Like, I don't think they're just going to forfeit the guy if he leaves the room, but yeah, I think that is kind of their thinking. Okay, I wonder comes back, immediately plays knight c3. Yeah, now I guess we would expect rook d8, okay, on the board.
Yep.
And no checkmate.
No checkmate. I suppose after knight f3, black can't win the pawn on d4 without allowing checkmate. So there's that going for white, but not much else because, if we play d5, black can play bishop takes c3 check, take the rook on a1, and the queen covers the checkmates.
Yeah.
So it's hard to play d5. It's hard to defend d4, even if we play knight f3, right? Black can play knight c6, and we're back to that question of defending it. Seems like the white position that's creaking here.
But white has ideas. I mean, like knight f3, knight g5, and then bringing a rook to f1. So
knight f3, knight g5, and then you want to play like queen h7 and castle kingside.
Yeah, just castle. Yeah, exactly.
Out of there.
Right. Once we get the queen to h7, yeah.
All right. Let me just toss an idea out at you. Knight f3, cd4, cd4, rook takes d4. All right. I forgot to bring out my entire queen side, which, I feel very bad about. But if for some reason you take my rook with your knight, and then I take back with the bishop, it seems like my bishop's almost like a one-man domination. Like he's defending, he's hitting like every single sector of the board, and I'm like not seeing moves for white anymore there.
I mean, I don't know. I would feel super risky about this as black. I mean, castle's queenside, for instance.
Bishop takes c3.
And we just take back.
Queen c3.
Yeah.
Queen b4, queen c3.
Oh, sorry, you have a draw. Sorry. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm not going to take it. I'm just letting you know about it.
Oh, easily. Somehow I was thinking I maybe had like some rook d8 check ideas. Oh yeah, let me just go rook d8 check, queen takes, bc3.
Sorry, let you just go what?
After castle's bishop takes c3, we go rook d8 check, takes, and then b takes c3.
Okay. You're trying to deflect me from defending my king.
Yeah.
It looks brilliant, too. Did you just brilliancy me, Kostya?
I've seen this trick in Puzzle Rush where if you skewer the heavy pieces, you win.
I love it. It's like a delayed skewer, and then there's no way out of it.
Yeah, it is pretty.
That's really sweet. So that's how I pay for not moving the knight on c6. Well done, Kostya.
Yeah.
I would give you a cookie if I were there. That was very nice.
So, I mean, no, a lot of danger for black. But I wonder, actually, if we...
That is sick, Kostya.
All
right,
nice
so that
line,
proves
right?
that we definitely can't play rook d4. But we got to play knight c6. Also, with knight c6, we need to take into account Sonny's idea. Which, Sonny, that's exactly something that I'd thought of too, is that after knight f3, if black plays knight c6, you play d5, sack the c pawn, and run your king to f2. And that's going to be some risk for black. So, in that variation for black, you definitely want to play c takes d4 before you play knight c6. Even though you're getting rid of white's doubled pawn on e3, basically you've reached a position where the white king is a little bit sketchy, right? So as black, you just want to do whatever you can to open up the center. So we would play knight f3, cd4, ed4, knight c6. And then if white plays d5, we have to decide if we want that pawn or not, and probably we don't.
Yeah, I would imagine black just cannot take and should go like
probably play
95.
some knight move to d4 or e5 or something.
Yeah, something like this.
But the other possible move for black there would be queen b6.
Oh, after d5.
After d5, possibly. Getting into those dark squares right away, but maybe white just has castles queenside. Maybe I want to go queen b4, not queen b6. But the tactical idea is that if white takes on c6 and black plays queen b2, maybe black's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, against these options, I definitely would want to play like some version of queen h7, knight g5, and castles kingside. Just let you take on b2, let black take on c3, you know, just play for mate.
Right.
I want to go back real quick just because we never really saw how we got here, but in this position when we last left off, white played queen g4. So just getting ready to move the queen, then black took and played c5, kind of like we thought. Queen h4 happened next, and then we have rook d8, and this is the live position now. So yeah, I guess I wonder, is calculating all this stuff, he could be considering other moves like maybe e5 or something, but knight f3 just looks very critical, and if this doesn't work for white, then maybe the whole position is kind of like not great. So everything else just seems slow.
Yeah. Does looking at the clock suggest to you that that it wonders, maybe not sure how to make this thing work out?
Definitely, yeah. I always feel like the attacker has a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. So it could just be that. It might not be that that any comment on his confidence or his position, just that normal responsibility.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I also view Awander as just like a very correct player. Just based on like his interviews and when he goes over his games, it seems like, you know, he's always trying to play the right moves and calculate stuff out. I don't see him as this like crazy risk taker. Like his opponent, for example, I could imagine him going for queen g4, queen h4 like relatively quickly, like not like spending a ton of time on h4, h5, just kind of putting that pressure on the opponent. Like this looks dangerous right now.
Pressure without really knowing that it works.
Yeah. Yeah, more of a like an intuitive style of playing, which I think really works for a lot of these guys up until like maybe like 2750, and then they like start to really calculate well and just like punish you.
I've got an interesting line for you, Kostya. So, from the live position, knight f3.
Yeah.
cd4, ed4, knight c6, d5. Now I'm going to play the more restrained-looking knight e5 from black here, right? So now I'm pretty well placed if you go for a knight g5 attack, wouldn't you say?
I'm not
with
sure.
The black knight on e5?
Honestly, I don't know. Because if you imagine like rook on f1, knight on g5, queen h7, king on f8, there's knight e6 check as well.
Okay, so you would still have things. Good call.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I thought of there was that white might actually trade on e5 in response to that. Because I was wrongly thinking the knight on e5 was really going to cover the knight on g5. But I actually came up with something pretty good for white anyway, I think. We trade on e5, then play queen h7 check, king f8, castles kingside.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm threatening checkmate. So then there's bishop f6 or bishop g7, right?
Yeah.
My first thought had been bishop g7, and then I thought, rook f7, king f7, rook f1, king e8, you know, queen g6 or queen g7. It seems very, very plausible for white, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like black king's on the run, white's, you know, not really behind in material, and it's really like a king safety kind of position.
Yeah, just take the exchange and yeah, just play the position, right?
Right? You just keep playing normally with like a nice d5 pawn and the black rooks aren't active. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. And if black had played bishop f6 instead of bishop g7, then I think there was the simple tactic e5.
Right. No, this looks very straightforward. I would imagine black is just in trouble. I mean, also after bishop g7, there's queen
There's
g6.
two other options, right? There's queen takes g6, where black might have to play queen b6 check and bail into a pawn down endgame.
Right.
There's e5, where you look to play e6 and try to just smash everything and keep queens on the board.
Yeah.
So this is like the first variation where I've really felt some of the strength of white's position, honestly, because up till this point I was thinking like, oh, for black all we have to do is, you know, counterattack and bring out our pieces and white will fall apart.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Hey, we got a question from Scourge. Thanks for donating. You are free to ask questions. You don't have to donate any bits to do so, but we do appreciate it. What is the difference between the King's Gambit and the Queen's Gambit? Why is the Queen's used more? Do you want to take this one, David? You're a big King's Gambit guy.
Yeah, also I'm big on like looking at the starting position. I like Fisher Random, looking at the starting position and sort of figuring out why one opening or another should or shouldn't be good. So there's a tactical issue for white in the King's Gambit that after e takes f4, there's this queen h4 check threat hanging over white, which you don't have in the Queen's Gambit. So that puts some tactical crimp on white's style. You know, where they'd like to play e4, e5, f4, ef4, d4, and bishop takes f4. Sort of positionally is what they'd like to do. So f4 opens your king, whereas c4 opens your queen. In the Queen's Gambit, sometimes the move queen b3 or queen c2 or queen a4 is useful to you. In the King's Gambit, your king being open has basically no positive use. So that's a first major strike against the King's Gambit in comparison to the Queen's Gambit. The second problem is that in the King's Gambit, your center pawn that you're left with on e4 is undefended, whereas in the Queen's Gambit, your central pawn on d4 is already supported a little bit by your queen. So in the King's Gambit, there's a lot of options for black to counterattack your pawn on e4. Even in the Queen's Gambit, if you try and play the move 3e4, which I think was like the original idea of the Queen's Gambit. I mean, since then, people have come up with sophisticated lines with knight f3 and knight c3 and e3 and stuff, but I think the base concept of these gambits is you've played d4, d5. d5 stopped you from playing e4, so you play c4 to disrupt their pawn. If they accept your gambit, you play e4, right?
Yeah.
So even in the Queen's Gambit, the way black fights back is by counterattacking the d4 pawn, right? They play moves like e5 there. And if you compare that to the King's Gambit, that pawn is even more sensitive for white on e4, which gives black a good counterplay. The advantage to the King's Gambit over the Queen's Gambit, because there is one, the advantage is that when you play f4, you're attacking a pawn on e5 that's more tender and hard for black to maintain. So if you try and play a King's Gambit declined as black with d6 on move 2, it's going to be a lot worse than the Queen's Gambit declined.
Right. That's
because
true.
When white plays knight f3, you're going to come under like extreme pressure. If you play knight c6, white plays bishop b5, which if you symmetrically flip the board, that's like an orthodox Queen's Gambit, which nobody thinks is anything special. They're just like, yeah, that's chess. But in the King's Gambit, that position is like nearly fatal for black already. It's like a clear advantage for white. Right. Very tough. So, Yeah, so black should play some version of like accepting, or d5 on move 2 is playable as well, whereas the Albin counter gambit isn't. But the e4 pawn again is more sensitive, and the king is more exposed in sort of tactical variations. So the Falkbeer is more plausible than the Albin.
Yeah, it definitely feels like with this, white just asks a much sharper series of questions to black, and really forces black. Because, yeah, I think if black doesn't try to react in a principled way, they don't have a ton of really good, like, simple, solid options that they can just use to get out. Then white, I think, is typically pretty happy in these lines. So very high risk, high reward opening, I would say.
Yeah. And, like, at base, it's less good. And it's less good because developing your king is less good than developing your queen. That's, like, one of the major factors.
Right.
And Plu Crew is afraid that I'm dissing the Albin. Should go check out the VOD from yesterday, where I analyzed a game between Fabiano and Nepo from the Fischer Random Rapid World Championships last year, and suggested an extremely important novelty, the Albin counter gambit.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of that stream.
What's that?
I caught a little bit of that stream, so I saw the position where you played the Albin.
Or I played the Albin. And did it blow your mind?
Well, I guess I don't know. That position looked fine, you know? Hard to say. I haven't seen that. But I guess my feeling was like, well, that's going to be really hard to do for every one of the 960 positions. But was your general point more that you should just compare the structure to, like, what we think of the opening regularly and try to figure out if it's like a good version of something?
Yeah, that's the idea. It's an approach to how you can think. You don't need to prepare every 960 position in advance. That's the opposite of the point of 960.
Right.
But you should prepare your brain to be able to respond to those positions, right? So in many positions, the Albin counter gambit's not good, like the normal starting position of chess. But in that starting position, the Albin counter gambit was considerably better than the orthodox Queen's Gambit declined, which was terrible.
Right.
Or the Queen's Gambit accepted, which was terrible. Or the Slav, which was fairly bad looking. So, you really have to keep an open mind.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. I just don't like, I feel like we have to rethink the way we name these things, because I don't like it when people name openings based on the opening moves themselves and not, like, let's say, the structure or what was kind of like the main idea. So, for example, the thing that drives me crazy is like d4 c5, and then someone's like, "Oh, black played the Sicilian."
Right.
Like, no, that's
right.
That's not how it works.
But in that example from yesterday, it literally was the Albin counter gambit and that pawn structure.
Yeah, so that makes sense. That's definitely like, yeah, that, when black goes d5, e5, it's the Albin and nothing else. Like, it's just what it is. Hey, thanks, Jay Almaguer, for subbing with Twitch Prime. And looks like
We've got a lot of action going on, so maybe we should get back from our theoretical musings on the nature of chess and look at some funky stuff on, like, every single board, including this one.
Right.
But maybe we'll start here before we move on. So
yeah, we got e5 from Wonder.
e5 instead of knight f3.
So yeah, another really interesting moment. If we get a Wonder after the show, be nice to ask him about this one.
Why he went for e5, I think, is big. Yeah, because passing up a move on knight f3 when you were really kind of wanting him to maybe castle kingside really soon, his structure is in danger of collapse. Like knight f3, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, queen e5, that kind of stuff is starting to come into the picture. So...
well, yeah, black one takes, knight c6.
Knight f3 will be a good question.
Maybe he didn't see the rig d8 tactic. Puker, I doubt it, honestly. I feel like for this level, it's like these guys are just machines.
Yeah. All right, so let's pop around to all the boards and see what everybody's doing. What do you think?
Yeah, Wonder is back in thought. I think we should go to the other Rising Star board, and then we'll go back to just because I just saw this position with Knight H5 on the board, and it looked fun.
Yeah, it is. So H4, H5, I think, was a pretty big threat, and so Amin played Knight F4, which I don't think is the main thing that Black wanted to do. If White had sat back, I think he would have wanted to organize F5 and Knight F6 and D5 and stuff.
Right.
But H4, H5 was a real structural threat that didn't give him the luxury of just rolling over his opponent. And, I mean, GMs are used to that. They don't let each other roll over each other, so.
Yeah. Yeah, they're always, like, fighting back.
They're always trying to fight back and change the situation if they don't like how it's going.
Right.
Yeah. So he plays Knight F4 with the idea that he's loosing that bishop on B7 and creating an idea of maybe just trading it off on F3 and just giving White a horrible structure forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So White takes it, which also hurts Black's structure, and then threatens Knight takes F4.
Yeah, with Knight H5.
If Black takes on F3 and plays bishop E5, where's the knight on H5 going?
Yeah, good question. So maybe White will have to just take on G7, but if we look at this one here...
Oh, bishop F3, knight G7. Yeah.
Maybe he has... I mean, I'm wondering if he has any other options.
Then I play rook E1, bishop G4, and the knight's trapped on a different square.
Oh, that's really interesting. Knight E8.
Knight E8. Okay, bishop C6. Good catch, Kostya. Good catch.
But then
so
we come back out.
Knight E7, we trade on E1, and then we bishop C6. We're doing this by trial and error rather than by, deep calculation, but there you have it.
Then I think White can get out with Knight H5.
Then he can get Knight H5, yeah.
Definitely feels like this move was missed by Black, though. Mainly because, it's not an obvious move. And he's... Yeah, very deep in thought. If we look at Amin's camera right now, he is he's just kind of sitting back. I think I know this pose. This is a pose when you don't really have a solution for your problems, but you still feel like there should be something. So you're just kind of sitting there stubbornly until you come up with a new idea to think about.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can rule out bishop E5 because knight takes E5 wins for White, with the threat of knight F6 check or knight takes F4, depending how Black recaptures.
Yeah, if Black loses this pawn back, then it's just one pawn. It's basically nothing.
Down to one pawn, a backward D pawn, no special influence anywhere on the board. So I think that bishop F3, knight G7 line is going to be pretty critical.
Yeah, let's check this one. So bishop takes F3. White takes on G7. Rook E1 force. I mean...
Yeah.
Well, we can think about king takes G7, G takes F3.
Right. I guess in a certain sense, there's so little dynamism, so little pawn breaks, that the only way out for that bishop on F1 is through H3. And maybe we could keep him out with F5, although we'd have to have also played H5 ourselves as Black.
Right.
So we would have to play bishop F3, knight G7, rook E1 here, takes on G7, G takes F3, H5 immediately. It's our last chance to do it.
Yeah.
And then bishop H3, F5, rook E6. I mean, basically, I'm looking to play bishop takes F5 for White, right? I mean, there's not many other plans.
Yeah, I would definitely file this one under hard to believe. Just because it seems like Black has, definitely some positional strengths, but also some weaknesses, like the F4 pawn, the D pawn, the D4 square.
Yeah.
I think White just
if in the starting position, Black were the one who controlled the E file with his rook, then I think it would become plausible, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if Black had a little more, like rook E5,
that's
rook
the only
E8,
difference it takes.
Queen E7. I mean, maybe we could keep trying. Like, let's say bishop h3, we go rook e1, rook takes e1, and like queen d8.
Okay.
He's going after this guy, but yeah, we take on h4. There's not a lot of follow-up threats, so. Yeah, it feels to me like black is definitely struggling.
Okay, so yeah. I mean, one other line I looked at is bishop f3, knight g7, trade rooks, bring the bishop to g4, and then when the knight goes to e8, you play like queen d8, trying to keep the knight corralled. And then I'm thinking queen d2 for white, and the knight's going to get out.
Wait, can you give me that line again?
Yeah. From the live position, bishop f3,
Yeah.
knight g7, trade off rooks on e1, then bishop g4, knight e8, and queen d8 from black, trying to keep the knight corralled on e8, long enough to play a move like bishop e6 or something.
Right.
But there I see white playing queen d2.
Good.
Threatening knight d6.
Yeah.
And threatening queen f4. And I think at that point it's clear the knight's going to get out.
Right. Yeah, it's really starting to feel like knight f4 was not good for black in view of this. Unless he just doesn't have anything else, then maybe the whole sack is like refuted by this h4, h5 idea from white. Really possible. I mean, because back on h4, if black had played something like f5 here, then we just have h5, and yeah, the king side just kind of collapses. So hard to understand where exactly things went wrong for black, whether it was knight f4 or if things were already difficult.
Yeah.
Hey,
black could play bishop takes c3 here, and then queen c3, gh5. And then my concern is the move knight to d4 for white.
Yeah.
Coming to the f5 square. You know, we have a somewhat messy position for black. We do still have, like, you know, 2 pawns. But I'm not liking it with the knight coming to f5.
Yeah, it's just like all of the compensation is on white's side here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so some problems. We'll let Amin figure it out. He's clearly still thinking. Although I see him moving forward. Is he about to... It seems like his hand is on his mouse. Is he about to make a move? Still thinking. Okay, let's switch back to Big Fish, Fedoseev versus Jeffrey.
These games in the super group are a little less crazy.
Yeah, they've progressed slower.
Challenger group, you know, just a level up in terms of how solid they are, but still very intense. Just a little less crazy. So, Jeffrey still. He offered a second pawn sack at some point when we were off the game.
Yeah, I'll catch people up. So we left off, last move we saw was knight c3 from white. Jeffrey responded knight b4 as we expected. Then white takes on d5. Took 10 minutes here. So although he spent 10 minutes on knight c3, he spent another 10 minutes on knight takes d5. So I think maybe reevaluating things or checking different options. Takes bishop
and after
d2.
black's really obvious recapture, he spent 6 minutes on
bishop
next
d2.
move.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's surprising because I do think of Fedoseev as a pretty fast player. Right. Especially when I see him play rapid, I find that he will play quickly in like Nepo style to put pressure on the opponent. Even if the position is really sharp, he might make a move I remember he was playing like a G60 game, I think, against someone pretty strong, but lower rated, and he had like 45 minutes on his clock or something when the game was like ending. So he definitely can play fast, but here he had something to think about. But c5, dc5, bishop c5, rook c1. And we had knight b4, b3, queen e7, bishop f4, and actually repetition here so far: knight a2, rook c2, knight b4, rook c1. And now Jeffrey is thinking here. Yeah, I wonder if honestly, I would doubt if black can really play for a win here. I mean, he does have rook d8, but that's probably met with knight d6.
Yeah.
But
is white even planning to repeat?
Yeah, it's not clear that white wants to repeat, because he repeated once, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily interested in repeating again. But after knight a2 here, let's say black does repeat. How is white going to avoid the repetition here? Because rook a1, there's knight c3.
Yeah.
Not that this is clearly good for black. I'm honestly confused as to what either player is kind of like looking for here.
Right. It's like, yes, black could trade off the bishop pair. I mean, he's still working on a position down a pawn, right? I mean, he may have compensation, but...
Yeah. So I guess the question is whether white thinks he can really... he can really push for something here. Hard to believe. Does feel like black has tons of play. Rook b8. He's got this pin. He can take the knight whenever he wants. White's dark squared bishop is not a great piece here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that position for white. I agree. And I think if white plays rook d2 instead of rook c1, it's something similar, that black can play knight to d5. And then, so like in this position, if he doesn't repeat and goes rook d2, then I think there's knight d5, bishop g3, knight c3. Same idea, trade that light squared bishop and then attack b3.
Yeah. It looks like we do have a draw by repetition. Knight a2, knight b4, and the players have agreed to a draw after rook c1. There is a anti-draw rule, no draws before move 30, but repetition does kind of supersede this. I mean, they could repeat moves until they get to move 30. It wouldn't, yeah, it would be kind of pointless. Okay, let's see if we can get one of the players in for an interview. Maybe I'll ask Jeffrey real quick. I'll send him a message. And we might have to take a quick break to figure that out.
We,
Oh, one sec. Hey everyone, alright, we are now live with Jeffrey Zhang, who drew his game against Fedoseev and is now going to take us through some of the critical moments. So yeah, Jeffrey, what did you think about the opening here?
Yeah, I chose the Vienna team, kind of a fashionable line nowadays, and it usually leads to very sharp play. He seemed ready for it. He played a4, which is, I know it's a move, but I couldn't remember anything about it. I think I quickly misplayed, because I was supposed to probably play a6 first, followed by a5. But instead I played a5 right away. And I think he might already be in some trouble.
Oh, so you think you might be already worse?
Yeah, because somehow I'm never in time to get what I want. I mean, he's just picking on c4, and I'm not sure what I can actually do against it.
Yeah, you spend a ton of time on move 12. Castles, I guess here is where, like, right, white is just about to take the pawn. Did you feel you had like good compensation with your sack, or was it? Did you feel like if white just plays accurately, then you're going to be in like big trouble?
Well, the good thing about this line is usually I will lose this pawn, and there's always compensation with this d5 square. So I knew that um, even even that I misplayed it, it was still going to be a big fight.
Gotcha.
Nice.
And where do you think white went wrong? Because I mean, yeah, I imagine he is not too satisfied with like this quick repetition.
Yeah, I think okay. Actually, I'm not sure about his decision to go knight c3. I was a little bit surprised. I expected something like rook c1 because I think you can keep this knight on b5 there for a while. I can never play c6 because knight d6. So
Right.
I thought if he just develops naturally rook c1, queen d2, rook d1.
While we were watching the game, Jeffrey, we'd put down a potential question for Fedoseev, which was why knight c3? Because we were both surprised by it also. We thought the knight seemed good on b5.
Yeah, I think his idea was to trade this pair of knights and then attack on a5, which is what he did.
Mm-hmm.
But then it allowed me to go c5 and start to kind of mess up the position a bit.
Yeah, I guess we missed this moment, but what would happen on bishop takes a5 after you played c5?
I think bishop a5 is not accurate because then I go queen b8. I'm threatening bishop c4.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's already very tricky for white. No, what he did was fine, d5, bishop c5, but here I expected him to take.
Oh, okay. And then would you go queen b8 again?
I probably go queen b8. Now he goes queen d2. Something like rook c8, and I don't think I have enough compensation for equality, let's say, but I think it's very double-edged.
Right.
Wow. So you can give 2 pawns on the queen side.
Yeah, but all my pieces are very well placed.
They are.
Everywhere.
Wow.
So yeah, I guess we have another question for you, Jeffrey. How do you feel about playing this long time control online? Have you already done some events like this with like a 90 plus 30?
Yeah, I played a match against Vitugov just about a month ago, maybe less. So I already had some experience. Yeah, it still feels a little weird to be playing such a long time control online, but trying to get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Cool. Well, now you're on 1.5 out of 2 because you won the first round game. David, did you have any last questions for Jeffrey?
Yeah, I've got one more question for you, Jeffrey. Like, obviously the coronavirus has disrupted everybody's life, but as a young super GM, like, how is this changing your sort of goals and plans? You know, you mentioned maybe something that hints at it, like trying to get used to playing classical online. What are your sort of like goals or plans, or how did they change in the last few months?
Exactly. Well, I feel things haven't changed too much. I mean, okay, obviously it's very different, but thanks to Shihao, who's been organizing tons of events online, I've been basically playing every single one. So in terms of playing chess, it's all kind of like the same. It's just that now it's online, and most of it is faster time controls. And generally,
No, we lost Jeffrey.
Mm-hmm. Oh, looks like he might have disconnected there.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can get him back in a sec.
Okay. Why don't you click over to a game while we're waiting for him?
Yeah.
Since there is so much action.
I'm gonna put up the game between Liam and Mamadjarov. Actually, we can see how Andrei Osipenko won his game. Oh, it looks like we got Jeffrey back.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I think my connection cut out.
Yeah, no worries.
Where did I leave off at the beginning, or?
You were saying that you were playing every event that you could, but that often it was like rapid chess.
Yeah. So, yeah, as I was saying, I mean, with all these online events being organized, it's kind of um, in the same as just that instead of playing classical events over the board, now I play a lot of events online. So I think there's still a lot of chess action, which is a really good thing, and I think to be ready for when normal chess resumes.
Cool. So you're still studying and you're staying as ready as can be.
Yes.
Nice. Well, that's awesome,
Cool.
Jeffrey. We'll let you go rest, and hope you have good luck in the rest of the tournament. Yeah,
All right,
maybe we'll
thank
catch
you,
you
guys.
next time. Yeah, thanks so much. Take care. All right, guys, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back so I can reset the screen for the commentary.
All right. You want to hit first the game that's decided and then go to the others?
Yeah, so this is the game that finished while we were talking to Jeffrey. Andrei Sipenko did defeat Tabata Abaye after this sacrifice, and their game, actually, I guess we more or less saw the line coming. Black played bishop takes f3 after 20 minutes thought. Probably didn't see anything better. Knight g7, king takes g7 was played. G takes f3 and rook to e5 was his try. Then white thought for about 2 minutes, played rook e4, and black ended up resigning here. I'm guessing not seeing a good response to rook f4, rook a1, and it looks like white has a lot of compensation.
Yeah, I guess he just didn't come up with anything, and h5 and knight h5 just broke black's position. We didn't find anything either, so that whole sacrifice put under a cloud by this idea of h4, h5 makes it look like knight d5 was a little bit more sort of like general than specific, right? Like he had the general idea of giving the piece for 2 pawns, but he hadn't really accounted for how he was going to proceed with that position.
Right. It was like a very exciting political campaign because we were all really happy about this sack that fizzled out very quickly after h4. And black was just left without enough. Okay, let's maybe jump to the game between Wonder and Parham. This one has definitely changed. So we last left off this one with e5. Black took on d4, went knight c6. Knight e2 was played. Rook a c8. White threw in the check. Castled. Black took on d4. Knight takes d4, queen b6. Allowing white to play knight e2, but now rook takes d4, queen takes d4, check, king h1. This is the live position. So black has sacrificed the exchange, last few moves, now gets the dark squares and a bunch of checks. I definitely don't mind it for black. It feels really
I
playable.
mean, they can have 2 pawns and a bishop against a rook, presumably, if they take on e5. Even if they do something else, probably e5 or b2 will fall soon. So it'll probably be bishop and 2 pawns against a rook, approximately. And then it's a matter of evaluating. Really a very much like king safety driven kind of position, in my opinion.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, if white can crash through with some kind of rook f7 and get the black king on the run, then good. If white has to at some point retreat his queen to h3 and try and consolidate the rook versus bishop position, then I don't think that's going to be amazing for white. It's just kind of instinct, but
it felt like things could have gone a lot worse for black earlier. Bradley Bloom says, a Wonder's chair does not look comfortable. This reminds me again of Grischuk, how he rejected like this. He will reject chairs at tournaments if they're too comfortable, because he feels like he needs an uncomfortable chair to force him to like focus.
In a comfortable chair, he'll just flag on move 7. He needs a few like pin pricks to move.
Yeah, he'll just fall asleep.
Okay, so I mean, should we go over these couple moves and see what else could have happened among them? What other options he had? Knight takes d4.
Yeah, I honestly feel like there's just a ton to there would be a ton to dissect. And the live position actually just seems pretty interesting enough. And we have the Mamajara versus
the other
Liam
game
that could be.
So we'll just sort of figure out what's going on here.
Right, and jump to that game.
All right, so the most obvious move for black would be queen takes e5 here.
Yeah.
Which he's thinking quite a bit on, given how sort of obvious it looks. So queen e5, is he worried about queen g6?
I would imagine that's White's first choice.
Damaging his sort of structure that he wants here.
Yeah.
But what other moves would there be for black if he doesn't like queen e5, queen g6? You know, maybe he can't be a chooser.
Well, there is rook c6, which also comes
rook c6
with an idea to play g5.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so rook c6. Yeah, I was trying to cover g6 and e6, right? Because not only is white threatening queen g6, but if we don't play queen e5, then white could play e6, and it could be annoying. So rook c6. Let's say rook d1, trying for back rank mate.
Yeah, annoying.
Queen b6 seems pretty likely there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think queen b6 looks forced.
Queen
yeah.
b6?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Then I'll play rook takes f7 check. I was really just decentralizing your queen.
Yeah.
I was pretty confident that Grandmaster Meg Sudley would not allow back rank mate. So rook f7, king f7, rook f1. I'm giving back my small amount of material to try and crank open the black king.
Right. No, it looks great. Looks great for white. I mean, if we are just taking the bishop back, then
right.
We just
That's all I'm doing. Just king e8, queen g7, and play the position.
Yeah, got rook d1 coming, and no, black's king is in huge danger. If the king goes to the back rank, it's rook d1, queen f8, queen d8.
Mm-hmm. And our e5 pawn is slightly valuable here, right? I mean, it's just taking away a couple cool squares.
Yeah, defending against potential checks even, and I think as far as the king safety goes, white is kind of crushing.
Okay, so that looks almost dead, right?
Yeah, no, I think that, not a clear win, but I mean, it looks really nice for white. Like,
yeah.
I think white would be really happy just to get something simplified now that he's running a little bit low on time, and he feels strongly would be really advantageous.
Mm-hmm.
But if not rook c6, yeah, I guess queen takes e5 just feels like the only other move.
Ooh, you know, in that final position that we just analyzed, Gosia, there was a huge threat of rook d1. I know I played my rook from d1 to f1.
All right.
Like 3 seconds ago, right? But rook d1 would be just a massive threat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you want to go back to queen e5, maybe?
Seems like queen e5 is the other. Right, queen takes g6, bishop f6.
Mm-hmm.
But rook at e1 does feel like white just has 2 open rooks against the king, and can just give the exchange back at
your
some
queen's
point.
hanging.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I thought you meant black's queen. That's true. Okay. So we gotta make a move. Queen h6 check, queen g4.
Yeah.
Maybe queen g4.
Okay. Queen g4, rook c5. Just gonna trade queens on h5 and play the endgame.
Oh, but that's interesting threat because you have bishop d4 as well.
Yeah. I've got bishop d4, and if you do something to just sort of eliminate the bishop d4 issue, maybe I've got bishop b2, and like my odds of losing the endgame are going to be less than the middle game, I think. I'm feeling very scared about this middle game, honestly.
Right. In the middle game, black just kind of gets mated in this type of endgame.
And that's something I don't like, so.
Right. No, much better chances for the bishop. I always remember like Melik Kachan talking about endgames with rook versus bishop, and you get the sense that he doesn't think the bishop is a worse piece just because it's like an open board. The bishop likes open diagonals, and yeah, if we imagine black's bishop here running around on the dark squares, it's going to feel really strong. Not to mention these two pawns. So yeah, this one is definitely like seems like a pretty unclear position actually.
Okay.
All right, he's still thinking. I guess we should go to the
check the other game. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had some action.
It looks
here.
like he'll probably play queen e5. That looked much more.
Yeah. Oh. Might have lost David, but I think he was saying that looked much more playable.
You've lost me, Kostya?
Oh yeah, you were cut out for the last 10 seconds.
Ah. Okay.
But
anyway, I thought you were
saying
switching to
queen
the other
e5.
game, but just as we were switching, I was saying it seemed like queen e5 was the more likely route.
Yeah.
Over
Agreed.
there.
Definitely agreed. Well, here we got the Kwang Liam. Again, shock. This was the QGA that was looked pretty dry at first, but the game has definitely heated up since then.
Yeah. It's actually pretty live here because there's all kinds of possibilities for both players. They each have a passed pawn. If the pawns were switched, so they weren't passed pawns, it would be much more tame. There's even like, knight c3 kind of options. There's knight c4 options. There's queen h3 options. There's a lot going on here. But the first question is if he just plays rook c8.
These b pawns are always so confusing. Like, one of these pawns is good and the other one is not. Is how I usually feel.
Because if one's weak, then it'll fall and the other one will be supported, right? Or if one's strong enough to draw the opponent, then that'll leave the other one hanging or something.
Yeah, it usually feels like both of the pawns don't survive for too long. I guess we can quickly go back, see how we got here. Last we saw Shaq played a5. And instead of taking on a5 and trying to do something, the Kwang Liam just plays knight g5. So threatening bishop f6, bishop takes h7.
I suppose he's willing to let the whole queen side go for that pawn, but actually he could get a strong attack. So I guess I can kind of see it there.
So e5 from black, very committal. Now he takes on b5. A takes b4 and pushes a4. Oh, I really like this because this is a way to like just not let the queen side totally liquidate and keep some pressure. Like if white wins the b pawn one day, he's going to have an outside a pawn. He's got the c4 square. He's putting some pressure on c6 and doesn't give black too many open lines to work with either. So bishop a6.
This was a great way to put a lot of pressure on black. And Shock came up with a great move there to keep fighting, honestly, because things could have gone badly there, and maybe they are going badly. I don't yet know what the evaluation of the game is, but bishop a6 seems like a very important idea that some people wouldn't even consider as a candidate move, right? Because it's like rook takes c6, queen takes c6, bishop c6, bishop e2. You had to calculate all that.
Yeah. How many players
wouldn't
would
even
not
notice
even
to do this?
Right, like would not. I think, like what percentile of players even notice the move bishop a6 is possible, let alone being able to figure it all out. But it does look like the tactics work out. White has a lot of stuff hanging here. So he just goes back knight f3, rook fd8, rook fe1, defending the queen, e4, again very committal, a move that I would have a very hard time playing as black. Knight d4, take, queen e6, queen c4, knight d5, queen c6, bishop d6, no thank you, g3, bishop b5, a b5, and rook a c8. While we were talking, Shaq made this move.
Phew. That's crazy. That there was so much crazy stuff going on there. Positions where I didn't know whether or not white could grab the pawn on e5. Lots of questions. Now rook c8. I think a big piece of black's challenge is that both his minor pieces are on squares not defended by pawns. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong tactically. Right? Whereas the white minor pieces are a little more secure at the moment. So
bishop d4 is really nice. Oh yeah, earlier I should mention actually that here on queen c6, bishop d6, this bishop on a6 was like momentarily hanging, but black can go rook takes a6, and white cannot recapture because of bishop takes h2 check.
Oh, nice.
So
very important.
More tactics, yeah.
Mamedyarov has had to use like every little trick in the book to survive this kind of positional onslaught from Liam, actually. I mean, like you, I love that thing where he took on b5 and then played a4 to keep pressure on that side of the board, and the knight c4 threat, which never materialized yet, but...
No, I mean...
I wonder if
I found a way.
Can't just get a draw here, though, with the rook chasing the queen back and forth.
So this is what we got, yeah, queen a6. On rook a8, I mean, white definitely could consider bishop a7 and trying to follow up with b6. It could be done, but I'm just saying he can consider it. Yeah, maybe knight c7 is like just an immediate problem, and then taking on b5. Yeah, probably it's not gonna work out for white.
Well, knight c7 you'd sack in exchange, I think.
That's what I was thinking.
Be fun. But the problem also is that knight on d2 is hanging.
Right.
At the end of that line.
So this seems, yeah, like too loose for white. So rook a8 on the board. And, I mean, Shaq is a higher rated of the players, but I think he's also been under serious pressure, so can't imagine he's going to be, like, too upset if the game draws out here.
Yeah. I mean, depends on the evaluation, which we just don't know at the moment. Because he does have an alternative, like instead of rook a8, if he repeats again there, he definitely has knight c3 as a move that pops into my head if you just wanted to keep playing, but I don't know if he's good or bad in that position.
Yeah. So we'll see. Big decision from Shaq here. Trying to see. We don't have his webcam. We see him from behind with his chessboard. He's just staring at the computer right now, looking, I guess, for a way to keep the game going. Yeah, if there's one thing we can say about Shaq, he definitely does not like draws, and he often just plays on and pushing very, very hard against other players.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't get to 2800 without just trying to exhaust every like possible little like chance or trick, or just this idea of like, if you believe you're a superior player to your opponent, and it's in your advantage to just keep the game going because they're more likely to make a mistake than you are.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Magnus has played equal positions for 10 million moves in his life, and knowing that he's not going to make mistakes now and then his opponents will.
Yeah, he's just got that energy. So we'll see. Mamedyarov definitely considering things here. See, quickly going back to a wonder game, we did have queen takes e5 after a long think from black, 20 minutes. Queen g6 played, bishop f6, queen h6 check, bishop g7, queen g6, repeating bishop f6, queen h6, bishop g7, and our first declined repetition of the tournament, queen h3 by a Wonder Liang.
as opposed to queen g6.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, this is where I expected him to go with it. This was, I thought, was the most likely, was that he would prefer that bishop on g7 instead of f6, and then in that position he would come away with queen h3 instead of the queen g4 line that we'd also mentioned. The bishop, I think, is slightly superior on f6 because then e7 is covered and the king also isn't back rank mated in case of some check on the back rank. So I think it's best to do it to avoid the repetition with the bishop on g7.
Right.
And yeah, we'll see what's coming next.
Yeah,
The
main
rook's gonna
question
have to
for me
move.
is what is white doing after rook c6 and rook h6?
Yeah, I think
right.
rook a d1
Right.
probably, and that's why that back rank is kind of critical.
Yeah, rook ac1 also possible, but this one poses a more direct question to black as to what to do about rook d8. Definitely doesn't want to play e6. I mean, not only does this block the rook, but also allows rook d7. White starts to come in.
If he plays bishop f6, then rook d8, king g7, queen h8
Yeah.
is not instantly mate, but very bad looking.
Yeah. Yeah, you figure it out later.
Yeah.
But okay, what exactly? We could have also gone queen g8 check actually, just to take on f7. Maybe that's better.
Yeah, that's enough. I was looking at that too now. Yeah. Might want to just take it that way.
Or even
So
queen h6 check might be even simpler solution. Oh, king e8. Okay, not that clear.
Yeah, but that position, if you go queen g8 to f7, I think you're winning. I don't think you need more than that.
Right. Because black, doesn't have many threats there.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. No decent response to rook d1. Black probably has to keep his rook on the back rank. Maybe rook d8 or something. Still, rook d1 is going to come and challenge the rook.
Yeah, and you couldn't even take it because of queen c8, like sort of in puzzle rush. So rook d8, rook d1 would just sort of be a lost tempo. He goes to c1 immediately.
Yeah, rook c6, rook c1, instant.
Huh. But now on a move like e6, it's not as obvious. I mean, it's still good for him. He can trade rooks, and white has an edge based on material here. But I really wanted to mate black.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what was the problem with rook d1. I'm sure there was some issue. Maybe he just wanted to guarantee a trade of rooks. For instance, if black goes like queen b8 after rook d1, white still has to deal with rook h6. I'm not totally sure, but this could be a problem. Feels like white is still active enough to play queen b3, queen d7.
Or queen d7, yeah.
Oh wait, sorry. Rook h6 is also coming with queen h2 check, so there is a follow up with rook h6.
Oh, there's a whole team coming, huh?
So maybe rook ac1 is just to guarantee that he can trade off the rooks, and
maybe he was actually worried about queen to b8, Coast. Yeah, nice find.
yeah, maybe.
You don't expect queen b8 to be a way to mate a king on h1, right?
Yeah, but that's the kind of move I feel like often gets me into trouble against higher rated players. It's like I play rook ad1, oh, position looks good, this will be a nice scalp, and then they go like queen b8, and like, oh, well, yeah, maybe things aren't so easy.
Right. I mean, not that white would be in big trouble there. He could play rook d5, and then what's the worst that happens? Rook h6, rook h5. I mean, I think white had a comfortable position either way, but I understand. If there was a defense to rook d1, I can understand him choosing to maybe just go to the technical phase now. B3 looks like a little move that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Pretty soon.
Yeah, we got the rook trade. B3 seems very, very fortunate now, or very playable now.
But
I would say if the
think
queens
before we
come
settle-
off, white has some good chances.
Okay. So before we settle on that, though, let's just imagine, like, let's just look at trying to checkmate again. Rook to d1. How does black answer that threat here? He doesn't have queen b8 anymore, the magic move.
Right. So here, okay, I think black probably goes e6. H4. Yeah.
e6, you played queen h4, right?
Yeah. Attack
And then did you
continues.
get unhappy for black?
It feels pretty unhappy. Yeah. Hey, chess analyst. Thanks for checking out the stream.
So rook d1 still packs a little something.
Yeah. Rook d1 still annoying. Queen c7. Okay, queen c7 possible. Is on rook d7, there'll be a check.
Yeah, but if you play queen c7, I've got queen g3.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Bishop e5 though?
What's that? Bishop
Bishop
e5?
e5?
Oh, I can't take it, huh? Nice. He did just play rook d1.
Yeah, rook d1. Awesome. Alright, you get +1 for the move.
Queen c7. Queen g3, bishop e5. Dang, that's nice. That's nice. And I don't have queen c3 by the same token because the bishop takes
Alright.
there.
I guess I would be drawn towards queen d7 as white on queen c7.
Oh yeah, that seems really clear actually. Not fancy enough, but winning is something too.
Right. So maybe king e8 by Icy. That's a nice move.
Yeah, but then there's queen h7 and
Right. Yeah,
you
comes with
pretty
other
much have
pawns.
to go play queen h6, right? I might be the best black has by now.
Yeah. Now,
Compared to what we just saw with queen d7, where the white rook is just going to eat the whole queen side.
right, at least with this endgame, yeah, the rook doesn't get in immediately. It still feels like rook d3 and like, yeah, black spawns are going to be really stretched out. Is queen d7 actually winning? That's a good question. Is black can pick up on b2.
Oh, bishop d4 defends
Bishop
a7.
d4.
I had looked as far as bishop takes b2, but not bishop d4.
I would say it's certainly not an easy win, but my feeling is that white still has very decent chances. Just because the possibility of like an outside pass pawn. But not an easy task at all for white. So yeah, I think yeah, we shouldn't go in for queen d7 100% fast unless because we can play b3 maybe and then go queen d7. And
Right, maybe b3 and
get a better version.
it's a little move that does need to be played at some point.
Right. Let's see. Oh, and Mamedyarov, he avoided the draw. Amazing. He has played on.
Okay, so he did go for knight c3.
Queen a6 and knight c3.
b6. So at least he's saying that he thinks he knows who has the advantage. This move b6 was kind of necessary to stop knight e2 as well, I think.
Yeah, b6
So
seems like a good response for white.
What's coming next?
And this is the moment where black is like, why didn't I just take the draw?
Why didn't I?
Because if he doesn't have a good move here, I mean, because now white has threats like b7, rook moves over, knight c4, or bishop a7.
Right. Any bishop move would deal with the b7 threat, so that's why I'm looking at moves like bishop to e5 and bishop to c5 and bishop to b8. I even looked at bishop g3 for a moment. But this is the one I expected.
Oh, bishop e5 on the board, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, challenging like this super strong bishop on d4, taking aim at the knight on d2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, knight e2 check could be
And stopping b7. So.
tactic, right?
So everything we really want to move to do, pretty much. If white takes on e5 with the bishop, I think he might go rook d2 because if you play queen e5, you're letting white play b7.
Yeah.
And if you go rook d2, you're getting active. Although your own back rank is getting pretty weak too.
Back rank is really weak, yeah. It's starting to look like first problem in Puzzle Rush. But b7 not working, queen takes a6.
Yep.
If we take, I don't see any tactics working with rook takes c3, just because black always takes back, and when we give a check on the back rank, the queen and rook will both be covering c8. And even if we try this kind of brilliancy, then black just takes anyway and still blocks. So none of this stuff seems to be really working for white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like bishop e5 a lot, actually. I mean, before this, it looked potentially very, very dangerous for black. Now after bishop e5, I don't know, maybe this knight on c3 is good. Mm-hmm.
If white played bishop takes knight, then black could take back with his bishop.
Yeah.
And I think white simply has inflicted material losses on himself.
Right. This would be...
So I think we can just sort of rule that one out. In addition to the fact that like rook b8 from black will mop up the problem on b6 there. So I'm not looking at much other than bishop e5 for white here.
Yeah, it's hard to find another move. So rook takes d2.
Oh, there is the move knight takes e4. No. Yes, no.
I feel like...
Yeah, there is knight e4 as like another candidate move here, honestly.
Yeah.
It's hard to work out, but I think it doesn't lose a piece. So it's a candidate. If bishop takes d4, you play pawn takes d4. On knight takes e4, you play rook c8.
Yeah. And this is all hanging.
Yeah.
So maybe knight e4.
Yeah.
So if knight takes e4, we again take on c8.
Yeah.
Black takes back with something. We take on e5. And... very double-edged, but like white does have ideas here. The bishop covers the promotion square. There's bishop c7.
Mm-hmm.
It's a possibility.
Yeah. He just traded on e5.
He just takes. Yeah, queen takes.
So maybe there's something wrong with my idea.
Or maybe there's something very right with knight b1.
With knight b1. Knight b1 doesn't look like it could be so right. That does not look plausible. I mean, that knight on c3 is defended 2 more times than it needs to, right? It is indeed overprotected at the moment.
Yeah, maybe it could be an attempt just to kind of equalize the position. Trade off the knights, trade the b pawn for the c pawn, draw the game. It's hard to say what's going through the player's minds right now, but I could see white not liking his position after bishop e5.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see what they thought on knight takes e4 though, because I really not clear what the solution there was for black. Yeah, hard to say. But now we have this knight b1.
I mean, the first move that popped into my head here was rook c6.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything wrong with that idea?
No,
Like I think if I just played a move like h6 or h5 for black instead of rook c6, then I feel like white can play b7, and once that pawn gets to b7, I don't think I'll be able to avoid trading the pawns.
I see.
Right, like my rook, like I'll be so busy dealing with the b7 pawn, I won't be able to keep c3 defended well enough.
Gotcha.
So I kind of want to play rook c6 here and stop that pawn in its tracks. Okay, he did.
Rook c6 on the board. Wow, another +1. You're crushing it with the guess the move.
All right.
So if white wants to make a draw here, I imagine he can take on c3, b takes c3, maybe try queen a3. And then you'd probably want to go just like rook b8 as black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just try to take this one.
And then you go rook c2.
Rook c2, rook b takes b6.
And rook e to c1.
Yeah, well, without a back rank threat for white, I mean, like, for white's king, I don't see a way for black to hold this pawn.
To keep it going, right? We could give a weird perpetual with rook a6, queen b3, rook a to b6, yeah. Queen a3, rook a6.
Right. Rook b2 is sometimes possible, but here it's black with the back rank issue, so white just takes.
His own back rank gets him.
Yeah, so definitely, I think black would love to be able to play h5 here, but just didn't have time. Because I think you're right, b7 there was just too annoying. Rook c6, now Liam is thinking.
Mm-hmm. So you want to trade the knight and go queen a3.
But it doesn't feel like the most principled solution for white. I think in white's shoes, you would kind of want something that just liquidates very cleanly, and you're not relying on like, okay, I'm down a pawn for a move, but his rook is just not in time. Like, things can always go wrong there.
Right. But I think for a player at this level, they can look that extra like move or two ahead and like know with confidence if something is going to go wrong or not.
Yeah.
Where you or I might still like we are somewhat calculation capable, but we would still feel like, oh, that like there's this weird feeling like I'm hoping that this happens before that I manage to clean this thing up before something bad happens to me.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a common story against higher rated players, and it feels like they always have one more way of like putting pressure on you, right? When you think you're like equalizing, you're liquidating, you're getting out, they play like h5 at some moment, you're like, oh man, now I have to worry about h4, h3, and it's like, it's not over. And the longer it's not over, I think the more chances the stronger side kind of gets to find some trick or look for some way to outplay the opponent. I remember when I was playing Le Quang Liam, I had white, and I had thought I had equalized, and then he like quickly played a move that it's kind of clear he saw this one from afar, that just like creates a whole nother set of problems for my position that I now have to like figure out.
Yeah.
So we have takes rook c2, and so okay, he plays this without queen a3. That makes sense. On rook b8, I imagine we just get rook ec1. Don't think rook takes b6 was a threat there, because once you move your rook off of the c file, knight e2 also ceases to be a threat. Now we got rook c2. Okay, Twitch viewer 456 is asking what Lichess rating means I'm pretty good.
Very open question. Very open question.
I'll tell you my honest thought. I mean, average rating out there is something like 16, 1700. So if you are in that range and higher, you're already pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all relative, you know?
All right, h5. So rook c2 is the move order I was expecting, but when you said queen a3, I didn't really see the difference. So we'll see if there is any difference. I guess we could analyze if he goes next, rook e to c1, and black plays, you know, h4. Does he have any problems? Wants to go queen a3, h3, rook c3, rook b6. You know, maybe let the pawns dissolve, but get a pawn to h3. Could that be?
No, absolutely. I mean, once this happens, white will have issues. I mean, in this line, if the pawn's on h3, white doesn't have time to take on c3.
Oh, no?
Well, because black has 2 on it, and there'll be rook d1 check at the end.
Oh, but so I was thinking like rook c1, h4, queen a3.
Yeah.
Oh, you play. Yeah, the reason I played rook b6 there, and then rook c3, h3, was I was kind of worried that white was going to play b7 now. But if I can leave that b6 pawn a little bit longer, maybe I can play h3 and see what comes of that.
Right. White definitely pushes b7 here.
Plays b7,
and it's a super mess, but it looks super scary. I mean, queen f5, queen f3,
queen f5,
rook d2,
queen f5. Yeah. All right, that's interesting. And if white has to spend a tempo on h4, then we might be able to take the b pawn and get back to defend c3 because we got rid of our own back rank.
That's exactly right. So that
Okay,
if white had played
b1.
h4 here, we might see this and this. Maybe queen f6 as well.
Rook b1 doesn't look good, first instinct. Yeah, and instincts can be wrong. And he didn't use his last 12 minutes, so he must still feel like he's okay. But, oh, he does have queen f1 in some cases to stop the mate.
Right.
So maybe he's just preparing to answer h4 with like queen f1 suddenly threatening the b pawn running.
Yeah, I think this is some kind of setup he's looking for. Queen goes to f1 to deal with the pawn on h3. Then it's very hard for black to set up the checkmate there. And in the meantime, rook is on b1 pushing b7 to distract black. This rook can come to b3. The more I look at it, the more I feel like it's a very useful move for white.
I wanted to play rook d3 to keep the queen away from the checkmate. That's my sort of that's the way my brain works. But then queen a8 check is a major problem. So h4, that makes sense.
And hey, thanks Mitch for the gifted sub. Much appreciated, all the support, guys. It's been a great show. I think we're up to 100 viewers now, which is cool. Might be a boost from Chess TV if we're on there.
Right. If you're just joining us from Chess TV, this is the Pacific Northwest Chess Club's Super Invitational, and they have 2 sections. This section, this game here, is being played in like the Super GM section with Jeffrey Xiong, Vladimir Fedoseev, and these 2 players here are Lei Quanglian with white and Shakhriyar Mamedyarov with black. And then there's another section, which is like a challenger section, except they're not that much lower rated.
Right.
They're still like, 2680. And there you've got Parham Maksudlu, and he's playing another game that's still going against Awander Liang, one of the most promising young American talents. And you've got Tabatabai, who earlier lost against Esipenko, one of Russia's top prospects. So it's a pretty exciting tournament. It's a 2 4-player double round robins, so they play each of the other 3 players twice, 6 rounds going on all week, 1 game a day in the mornings here. And we'll be covering rounds 2, 4, and 6, so we'll be live on Wednesday around the same time and Friday.
Yeah, we'll be covering this event again Wednesday and Friday. So they'll be playing tomorrow again. We can probably look at the games on our off days on each commentary day. Actually, it was great that we had these Rising Star games to look at as well. Those were really interesting. It just gives us a ton of material. Now I feel like we just don't have enough time to cover everything.
Yeah. During the opening phase, you're like, oh, it's good that we've got this extra crazy position, and then the games all explode and you can't even cover 4 games. But
yeah, I feel bad that we're not watching stuff live. It actually is cooler to see games play out live. Like, it's so fun when you're looking at a position and you don't know what they're gonna do, and then you just uncork some move. It's like just changes everything. Well, here Shaka's played h4, so he's just continuing on with the plan. And I mean, I think from just an intuitive point of view, this feels very strong for black to put the pawn on h3, just leave white with these long-term problems. Maybe white has enough counterplay to hold, but compared to what we were looking at earlier, I mean, this is like total turnaround.
yeah, I mean, it looks like the setup for white now is going to be something with like queen f1 and rook b3.
Yeah.
So he's trying to like trade his b pawn for the c pawn by both attacking the c pawn and backing up the b pawn. And his queen is on, you know, guard g2 checkmate territory, as well as guard against a back rank mate.
Right. And both sides have their passed pawn, but it's one of those positions where it's just like every tempo counts. So it's like if your pawn is on b7, but black is promoting and like threatening checkmate with the promotion, like you lose. You know, if they promote, you take, they take back with check, they put the rook behind on b1, you lose. So one tempo can be extremely valuable. Here's the difference between a loss and a draw.
Yeah.
But not enough time, not a lot of time for the players to figure out. So this one is just going to be up to white.
Let's imagine queen f1 here for Lei Kwang Liam.
Yeah.
Because that allows the b pawn to advance next, and it even maybe stops h3.
Right.
Not just defend against it, but stop it cold in its tracks. Queen f1, what does black do next?
Let's say black goes for...
Or let's say queen e2, since that's what he played.
Oh, queen e2. Oh, interesting. Queen e2. So this covers against rook d2, which is nice. And on h3, maybe he has something like queen g4, just to pick up the pawn.
Yeah. Also on h3, his queen is stopping us from checkmating on g2 by covering f3, and stopping us from checkmating on d1 by covering d1. So she may defend just as well from here as from f1.
Yeah, now maybe rook d6. I imagine any move that black makes here, white is responding b7.
Yeah.
So this counterplay with the pawn is kind of like white's only hope here. Even if black goes rook b8, I think white pushes b7.
Definitely.
Maybe black goes rook c7. And this is where white would need some kind of very accurate move. Either counterattacking c3 or... Because rook c1 doesn't cut it. Black just takes, rook b takes b7. Pawn is defended. Queen e1 also doesn't feel like it's going to cut it. Because maybe just black just plays h3. It's like, what's white's next move here? So rook c7, queen g4... Queen g4?
Queen 1 h3 seems troublesome.
Right. But I like queen g4 though from Eric Ido.
All right. So rook b8, b7, rook c7, queen g4. With the idea of if we take on b7, white's going to give queen c8 check.
Yeah.
And win. As black, we don't want white to win. We've got the committal option of f5 as black there. Force feeding white the h4 pawn and then collecting the passed pawn. But our king will be exposed forever once that happens.
That's very Mamedyarov-esque though, I have to say. Just f5, take on b7, try to win with the c pawn. Just feels like very macho.
We could also trade on g3 and then play f5 and do the same thing.
Yeah.
And queen d8 to h4 doesn't yet seem like a perpetual because the black king can come out to g6 and have enough space to avoid the perpetual for now.
His queen on e5 just seems to like hold everything very nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're ever trying to convert a queen and pawn ending, the only thing I know that I can offer you as help in that is that a centralized queen is very good in queen endgames. The queen is so strong, you may not always think about centralizing her. In the middle game, she'll just get harassed, and so she avoids the center because she doesn't want to get harassed. But she's actually stronger in the center once the other pieces clear out.
Yeah, it's very mobile. Okay, here maybe white just has rook takes c3 and just equalizes. Oh no, rook b1 check and then take the rook.
Wait, where do you have rook c3?
This was at the end of our line with queen h4 and rook b7, queen d8 check, king f7. I thought maybe rook takes c3 with queen d5 check in the air, but black just goes rook b1 and picks up the rook.
Yeah. Also, I wasn't coming out on f7. I was going to h7, and on queen h4, I would come out to g6.
Gotcha.
I'm a little bit happier to come out there because the white queen is pretty hemmed in on h4 versus centralized on the d file.
Right.
So if I'm going to avoid the perpetual, I'm going to do it over on that side.
Yeah, this looks super dangerous for white. But a queen e2, okay, Shaq is thinking, and he, based on what I've seen from him, you know, like pro chess league, he is a pretty fast player. He likes staying ahead of the clock of his opponent. So he's spending his time here. He clearly doesn't see a clear like solution for black to deal with white's b pawn. But he's looking for something. He wants to win. I guess h3, queen g4, unpleasant. And I guess he could start with f5, but it's a tempo. It's a very important tempo here for black.
He could start with f5. That's true. He could also, and this is maybe insane, but he could play h3 and on queen g4 play queen e6 and try and do the pure rooks. But probably king f1 to e2 will diffuse that.
That was really interesting.
Yeah. That's not much.
Wait, but rook d2 after king f1?
Rook. Well, so like h3, queen g4, queen e6, trade. So first he'll play b7 there.
B7. Oh,
right.
Whoops. Okay.
So you have to respond to that with like rook b8 or something, and then just march the king towards e2. And
yeah.
I mean, otherwise, if the king were stuck on h1, black could go rook c7 and rook takes b7, and white can't win back the pawn because of the back rank. But it's not going to work. Oh my goodness, he just played h3.
h3 on the board. Nice.
What is that about? What is that about?
Well, he might want queen e6. I wasn't totally sure that this rook endgame is bad for is okay for white. Okay, like for example,
maybe on queen b4 rook d2 as well, right? That's possible.
Yeah, there could be other moves like rook d2 and so on. But the endgame we were looking at, I mean, let's say king f1, we go rook b8, king e2, we take on b6, white takes. They take on c3, we have rook b1 at the end of the line, and rook h1.
You can try and win that messed up thing just off of the h-pawn.
Yeah, I guess, okay, it feels like it doesn't work once I'm here. Rook c4, rook h1, takes, rook h4. I think white is okay.
Yeah, if the rook's on the h-file, white's okay.
So we'll see what his idea is. We were thinking queen e6 is, or queen g4 is kind of the move for white, but maybe he has something else. Yeah, really tense position.
You can even play rook h6 as well as rook d2. I mean, I think rook d2 looks more plausible, but queen g4, rook h6, b7, f5.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just taking all that space to fight back. And b8 queen doesn't work for white. Because black takes it, and if you take on f5 at the end, there's queen b1. But probably white just comes back queen e2, and then you play like... Well, even then, it's not dead yet. It's not dead yet. But there is no coverage on the alternate days, MW Waller. Sorry, there's no live coverage for the odd rounds this week.
Yeah, but the games will be ongoing, so you can catch them on chess.com. They're pretty easy to find in live chess. And I think we will cover some of the more interesting games perhaps on Wednesday if something exciting happens tomorrow.
Yeah, and also we're streaming every day, so we may just look at the games during one of our streams at some point.
True, yeah. Jesse might be doing Title Tuesday tomorrow, and he might stop in.
All right. Look at rook d2 for me for a second, Kostya. What happens there? Queen g4, rook d2.
Okay, queen g4, rook d2. Yeah, also
b7.
b7, right?
Making lots of queens, which makes me lots of nervous.
Let's see. D1 square is covered, which is important. Otherwise, black could have played rook takes b6 on the previous move.
Yeah.
Maybe we go queen b8. There's queen takes e4.
Right. Oh, defending the c2 square and basically winning for white.
Oh, I don't know. Queen takes b7.
Queen takes b7.
This is no longer covered.
Holy moly.
This one. So this is just so sharp. I don't understand how the players calculate anything here, to be honest. I feel like it's just like there's so many.
What do you mean they're focused? They're focused, man. They're just like boom. Aren't they? What do their focus poses look like?
Well, I'll show you. Viewers on well, I guess the viewers on stream can see.
Nice.
But basically, they're both actually kind of sitting back. Shock has his head resting in his hand. He clearly looks very determined, actually. I think he's just like staring at the position, scanning.
Oh, he looks like he's drilling holes in his laptop with his eyes.
Yeah, exactly. The Kwon, he looks
B7 was
calm.
played.
Pretty calm.
Like queen g4.
B7. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Just getting the pawn out there. Now black always has to worry about promotion.
Mm-hmm.
I guess rook b8 would be kind of like the obvious choice, but...
Yeah. But Shaq can do whatever he wants, right?
Yeah, you can play f5 here.
If queen b5 were a good move for black, that would be really startling.
Double X that.
Be like, you know what? I saw some kind of immortal back rank game once. Let me just try queen b5. Oh, man. Well, I can see the desire to play b7. I mean, that pawn's wanted to distract black for a long time.
Right.
It's like, I live to distract.
Yeah, f5, f4 makes some sense. I do feel like I think now that white has just like pushed b7, now black's kind of like winning condition is just like picking up the pawn on b7 without losing c3 pawn.
Also, all his other ideas are going to get refuted by white queening.
Yeah, he just has no choice.
He's like, I'm going for rook d2, b8 equals queen. Okay. I'm going to go for queen f5 to f3, b8 equals queen.
Well, it's tough, but I mean, I feel like white's back rank though also makes things very tough because now all these sharp lines, they always just finish with some check. Or even in the endgame, even if white gets the king out, not so easy. Black gives a check on the back rank, rook h1 goes after the h pawn.
Okay, here's another move I have for black. queen to d6. That's an alternative. Now, my idea here is to basically not defend the c-pawn, but just go after the open files to try and checkmate.
Oh, so you're threatening like rook b6 here, maybe?
I'm going for rook b6 with that move. Oh, rook b8 was played. The move that we thought would probably need to happen.
And he's thought for 2.5 minutes here, which to me is a lot of time, given that they don't have much. But with the 30-second increment, they can definitely afford to go as low as they want to.
Yeah, but I think like even they are finding that this simplified-ish position is full of tactical details. Because you're seeing like 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 4 minutes, 2.5 minutes. I mean, it's not easy at all. So
yeah. So yeah, this is an example. Sunny is saying if black goes rook c7, maybe queen b5. But yeah, that's kind of shows the line. Like let's say, well, let's say we just give white an extra tempo. We play queen b5 here. Take, rook c7, king f1. Then already this is the type of endgame where, yeah, earlier we saw this with pawn on e6 for black. That was pretty weak. Here it's definitely a better version. Maybe white is still getting some counterplay, but they
might also be losing because I don't see how they get over to the h file.
Oh yeah, rook c4, f5.
Wow, Magsudlu held the draw in this endgame.
That's surprising. Let's switch over there real quick, then we'll come back.
Yeah, Wonder just wasn't able to make progress here somehow. Why not rook f7? Parham asked.
Instead of queen g6. Okay, let's go to that moment.
Yeah, I want to know. Rook f7.
I love these young guys. They're like, it's like they don't care about the result of the game. They just want to know, why didn't you play the best move?
Yeah.
So here,
okay, so
on move
f7,
26.
King f7, rook f1. If king to e6, queen h3 wins. If king to e8, then queen g8, king d7, rook d1 also wins. I think that...
Because king c7, queen c4?
King c7, rook c1.
Oh, just rook c1.
Yeah, just trying to win back that rook, but with black not having that f7 pawn.
Nice.
And the black king on the rung.
I wonder think that, with the clapback, though, he says queen f6.
Oh my god, oh my god, the calculations on these monsters.
Yeah, isn't this crazy? It's not just like, oh, he has compensation. No, he's just good, right? Rook f6, ef6, rook h8. I wonder, writes, I thought it was a nice trick.
Yeah, it is a nice trick, I wonder. Queen f6, and white's got no way to avoid rook h8.
That's pretty sick.
So nice, I wonder. You're a genius.
Yeah, that he found it with white, you know. Oh, yeah. Parham goes, wow. So he missed it. He thought white was just winning there.
He thought he was losing to rook f7. That's why he thought a long time on queen e5. And what a level the calculation is on. It's great even to see for 1 second to their heads, because like when Parham says, why not rook f7? It's like, oh man, did I wonder like miss rook f7? No. He like saw it and he saw the next level and the next thing. Oh man. Oh man. That is impressive.
Now,
that is impressive. And he's not even 2,700, guys.
Not yet. Not yet. Icy's saying rook takes f7 after queen b6 was good. Oh, on move 23. Ah, okay. And someone else in the chat mentioned this. I guess the engine shows this move.
Rook f7 with the knight hanging instead of defending it.
Right.
Instead of black attacking the rook.
Oh, and then e6. So not rook f1 check, but e6.
Oh, and then e6.
Oh, that's pretty sick.
That's sick. Oh, that's sick. That's sick, and it's like mate. I mean, he's got to go queen takes e6, right? Oh no, his king could wander up to f6 and e5, right? I mean, that could be calculated. It's death. Queen g7 is mate, right? Rook f1, king e5, queen g7. No, king d6 keeps wandering. What the? the heck is this game?
We might be able to get a Wanderer and Paramount, so that would be really cool. Have them discuss
That
the
would
game.
be cool.
Yeah, talking to the organizer right now. I think we can make it happen.
But do you want to leave this Liam and Shock game and have it finish off screen?
No, I'll have that up on the board,
Okay.
and maybe we can have. Well, let's see. Maybe we can
There
just
might
have
be
them.
4 minutes left. Maybe we should finish this game and then do an interview.
Yeah, I feel like we should, because this is just very exciting. White is now taking on H3, and yeah, I mean,
So after rook
Black
d8,
is
White
definitely.
then played queen g4. Black goes with the heavy queen centralization, going after the blockade, but rook c to c1. If rook b to c1, then he can never challenge the c3 pawn after rook b7. So he comes back. How's he going to challenge c2? Oh, he's got queen f1 to deal with queen d1 on the back rank. So c2, he'll just play rook b2 or something. Oh la la. Oh la la. This doesn't even really threaten to take on b7 because of queen c8, does it?
Yeah, hard to say. David, you keep thinking out loud. I'm gonna try to set up a new Zoom call so we'll get the interview ready. The other two, just because their game was so interesting, it'd be awesome to hear that, and they're clearly interested in.
They're clearly interested in it, right?
Yeah, it's so good to see. So I'm going to create a new meeting.
So Liam is getting under a minute here. So I'm not sure how that happened. It felt like a moment ago he had 2 minutes more than Shock somehow, and we were like surprised because Shock usually stays ahead on the time. Now somehow he's down to 30 seconds. What is the problem here? What is the problem here? Shock's not threatening b7. What is he threatening? Does he want to play c2? Rook b2. Queen comes out to f5. Now it's off the back rank. Now on the move c2, he can't lift his rook because of queen b1, I'm pretty sure. So c2, he might have to play rook to a1, and then rook c takes b7 looks winning. Wait, it looks like this move loses, queen f5. I thought this queen had to go to f1 at some point here to cover the back rank. c2 looks winning.
So c2
looks definitely winning.
And then just queen d1 check, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, if the rook goes off the back rank, queen d1. If the rook goes to a1, then rook c takes b7. And you've got b1 covered like 4 times. White's never going to survive that square.
Right. Yeah, starting to look very dangerous for White.
c2. There
C2
it is.
on the board.
What was Liam afraid of that caused him to... Yeah, he's got to go to a1 to stop queen d1. It's just dead, right?
Now just take...
He thought till he had like 10 seconds left and then played queen f5, which I don't understand how why the queen would want to be there.
I mean, it does keep the queen active. My just initial guess is that he didn't like what he saw on the other lines and just is trying to just stay as active as possible.
Yeah, maybe the other lines were bad too at this point. Because if he goes queen f1, then maybe c2 as well. There's rook b2, and then rook b takes b7, and he can't get his pawn back. Oh my goodness.
And we got someone in the chat on the game saying like, "Oh my God, what a blunder!"
Okay.
It's so funny. It's shocking.
Everybody's shocked. Rook b5 would send that queen back over to the king side, get her out of the center.
Oh, rook b5. That's very technical. So now the queen might lose contact. Yeah, with queen f4, loses touch with the c8 square.
Yeah. and loses touch with h7, so there aren't back ranks to worry about.
Rook b1 should be winning.
Should be decisive for sure. I mean, you can even do a thing as black where you... So he's trying to defend against rook takes a1 with queen takes b8. But honestly, that rook can even come off of b8 once the rook's on b1, because we've got b1 covered so many times.
Yeah.
And there's also the idea of playing queen d1 once your rook's on b1. You know, you just stuff the back rank with every piece.
Yeah, now that black has won this pawn, it just seems like he's just on the verge of breaking through.
Yeah. Thinking here. He's thinking. Is there some rook a7 he's being careful about?
Probably.
That's the kind of stuff that I miss, you know. I'm like, I got it, just rook b1, you know, and then they play rook a7. It's like, oh, if I just paid attention for 10 more seconds this game. But still, queen d5 should deal with it, right? But, I mean, you want to be in the habit of looking for that before you just
absolutely, yeah.
somehow.
Because some days you just don't have a defense to rook a7, and then you're like, oh shoot, okay, queen c7, going after a c2 pawn. Not that this one is really, it's not really hanging. Just queen e2, wow, so
queen
fast.
e2, very nice. I was looking at queen d1, but queen c2, yeah.
I think this game might be over, yeah, momentarily.
I think so.
Rook c2, we have queen f3 check, we take the rook. Queen c2, we trade queens, we take the rook on a1. There's no way for white to... Oh yeah, if white takes twice on b1, hoping for a perpetual, black again throws in queen f3 check. Let's say king h3, queen h5 check. Oh, actually, at this point, don't even need queen h5. Just
you don't even need queen h5, but you do need queen f3. That's nice.
Yeah. Very important in-between move.
I think the weird thing about this time control, I never got used to playing 30-second increment Kostya. Like, I never got used to it. The weird thing is, like, one moment you've got 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, just gotta make a move. And then you've got 2 minutes on your clock, like 2 minutes later, right? And it's like, oh, you gotta stop and think.
All of a sudden,
like, I'll just move something.
It's definitely a different skill, like, than we're normally used to. The ability to make the best possible move with 30 seconds thinking time. It's not the same as, like, you know, you have as much time as you want, and it's up to you how to determine it. Like, no, you have 30 seconds per move, and you got to play best possible continuation.
But isn't it, like, even sort of weirder than that? Because every now and then you've got, like, a move which is either, like, a recapture or basically to, like, a master, just a forced move, right?
Yeah.
So instead of spending 30 seconds on each move, there are some moves... Okay, now maybe queen f3, king h3, rook b5. I've been wanting to come back to b5.
Oh, not even just ignoring the rook. Oh, I love rook b5. Yeah. Any rook.
But you've got this weird thing that, like, actually what you do is, like, some moves you play in 1 second, some in 2 minutes, and you don't even get to control or choose when you have to do that. So
yeah.
Is there any refutation to this rook b5 idea? I mean, I hadn't really analyzed it, just I'd been wanting to do it.
Queen f3 on the board. No, it looks absolutely decisive. I'm just not seeing a move for white. Yeah, I think it's just over.
Nothing left but the crying. Oh, yeah. If you bring the wrong rook to b5, white might have rook a5 as a defense, right? If you go rook 1 b5, they might have rook a5, weirdly, because your rook on b5 is defending the rook on b8.
Oh, wow.
So even if you go queen h5 check, king g2, rook takes a5, they've got queen b8. I mean, maybe you can then go back and win that game anyway because you still have your c-pawn. But it's correct to move the rook on the 8th rank up to b5, right? And then...
You know, I think it doesn't matter. Like, if we go rook a5 in that line, we just take, queen takes b8, and then king h7. And still mating?
Yeah, I suppose so. But rook a5, queen a5 covers the 5th rank in that.
Oh, queen a5. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted to move rook 8 to b5 there. Whoa, he repeated once.
Interesting. We got queen f5 check.
Is he looking at rook c8 here? Is that another winning method? Not as sweet maybe as rook b5, but perhaps effective.
Maybe he wants rook b5 in a different, like in this move order, with a5 square already covered. I don't know.
Rook c8. Just
Rook c8.
the rook on c1's undefended.
Oh, just rook c8. Game over.
Yeah. I think that's what he was going for.
Yeah, should be.
Too bad. I failed to predict rook b5 then, but I liked rook 8 to b5.
Okay, rook c8 on the board. Yeah, I keep
Very.
expecting white to resign, but he keeps finding like moves to just
Yeah.
make it a little, you know, just give black 5% chance to mess up, 3% chance to mess up.
Yeah.
Okay, rook takes c2.
That's how you know that you would blow it, is if... So now hopefully he'll come back to rook b5 at least.
Yeah.
Oh no, he doubled rook, so he's got rook c5. So we've got a whole endgame to play out still, folks.
Okay, now I think, yeah, now let's take a break. We'll get, hopefully we get Parham and A Wonder on to discuss their game. I think Shock should win this handily. It might take a little while, but...
Yeah. Okay, rook g1 is a good way to do it too.
Yeah, rook b6.
Rook g1, and then if... Yeah.
Oh, there we go. There's a resignation. Okay, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Just going to set up the interview with two of the young players, and we'll catch you in a few minutes momentarily.
I mean, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just couldn't refute it, and yeah, it was a little bit difficult. But...
All right, guys, we are back live. We got Grandmaster A Wonder Liang with us to discuss the game with Parham. David, A Wonder, I didn't hear anything you guys said, but
Okay.
might have to repeat for the crowd. I'm going to bring up your
That's
game,
fine.
A Wonder. And
I was planning to repeat everything for the crowd anyway, but I thought if he was just sitting here, I'd still talk to him.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Really interesting game. You mentioned in the
Wait,
chess.
can I see the board, or I don't know, how do I...
Yeah, we're just...
You can do it blindfold like me, I wonder.
Oh, okay, I see.
Toasty's got a board, and we're just...
Yeah,
floating
I've got a
internet.
board, and if you just want to pull up the game on your end, you know, if you bring up a moment, we'll just follow whatever you say.
Oh, I see,
So,
okay.
yeah, you can
Wait, can you
go
guys
into
hear
any
me,
lines.
or...
Yeah, we hear you great.
Alright, cool. So, yeah, let me find...
So tell us about this opening. You played h4 after 16 minutes.
Yeah, I knew, like... Okay, so I mean, I knew, like, bishop e5 is kind of, like, the theoretical move. Then, like, bishop e6 is supposed to be, like, what black's supposed to do. And I was trying to figure out, like, if there's anything I can do, because, I mean, the idea is, like, black's threatening some knight c4 or something, so white has to just, like, develop with, like, let's say knight f3. And then what black does is they go bishop g4, and so they're threatening to, like, take on f3 and kind of ruins white's pawn structure. And, I mean, maybe not right away, but they're putting a lot of pressure on the center. And then basically white should go, like, bishop e2 back, and then we transpose to a line that's sort of fine for black. So I was trying to figure out, like, if I have any other moves here. And I mean, like, everyone's favorite move nowadays is to go h4 and like h5 and stuff. And actually here, like, I knew it wasn't a move because, I mean, I've looked at this position before, but during the game it didn't look easy for black at all. Like, I was trying to figure out, like, knight c4, I mean, I can just take and go h5, and honestly the attack looks quite dangerous. I know, like, after the game Parham said that black should go c6, and then let's say I go bishop e2 and he goes knight c4, but I mean, even still I can just take and go h5 and I've still got some things going. So it's...
So you thought that h4 shouldn't be good, but then since you couldn't figure out what was bad about it over the board, you thought you'd try it, and he wouldn't be able to figure it out either.
Right, yeah. I mean, I knew that it shouldn't be terrible because, I mean, no matter what the engine says about it, like, I mean, I don't think I've done anything wrong in the opening. I mean, I know it's quite typical for these positions, so I don't think it should be a bad move.
Right.
So I was just trying to figure out exactly how dangerous it would be. because I mean the last thing you want to do is just go h4 and then like there's no attack at all. So
Right.
yeah, I mean I spent a lot of time trying to figure out like after h4 or h5 if I'm improving my position. I think it is a slight improvement because I get the g5 square, and a lot of times in these lines, especially if black in sometimes takes on f3, g takes f3, there can be like some f4, f5 ideas if he goes h5 in those structures. So, I mean, I think h4 does have kind of a point to it. And yeah, he played bishop c4, which I guess, I mean, it's a very logical move, and it was one of the moves I was thinking of, but I guess it's just probably not the best response.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, around this time I spent a lot of time trying to figure out like the ideas in this position because obviously it's very new. So, I mean, I think what happened next was quite logical. I thought after yeah, I think everything up to like, let's say, h5 takes knight c4, hg6, queen g4 is quite forcing. Yeah, here I was kind of expecting him on the next move, instead of playing c5, to play queen d7 and like evacuate the rook. Like c5 was just an idea that I kind of missed entirely. But I think it's a decent try to get some counterplay. The problem with c5 is, I guess, it's probably just not fast enough. I've just got like way too much threats along the h file and the f file. So
Yeah,
I
we
think
were.
after
Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. I think after queen d7, I mean, there's a kind of similar issue going on. Like, I'll play queen h4, he moves the rook, I go knight c3 back, and then depending on the position, I'll either go queen h7 check and castle short, or just castle long and bring the other rook to f1. So it's quite dangerous regardless of what he does.
Yeah,
that does seem dangerous.
Oh, for sure. We were wondering during the game, actually, your thoughts on after c5, queen h4, queen a5 check, knight c3, rook d8. In this position, yeah, it felt like you spent a critical amount of time. What did you think on going for knight f3 on move 17, I wonder?
Yeah, it was quite interesting. Instinctively, I sort of preferred e5 just because I wanted to have the option of going e6 in some lines. Knight f3, I didn't think about too much. I mean, I guess on one hand it could sort of transpose to the game if he takes and goes knight c6, unless I'm missing like a clear mate. Yeah, I mean, this is like the sort of position which I could just, I mean, like sink ages into. Like, I could spend 30 minutes and not really come close to discovering like the truth about the position. So I mean, yeah, in these sort of situations, I mean, I guess I just kind of have to let my intuition guide me a little bit. So knight f3 wasn't a move I considered too much.
Gotcha. Yeah, we didn't check any of the games with the engine. Yeah, we were just curious what your calculation was like.
Kind of scared about was like if he goes knight f3, c takes d4, cd, and then like, or ed, sorry. And if he has the opportunity to play something like queen h5, I mean, I know I can go queen h7 check first, and then I guess it would be pretty similar to the game actually. But like e5, I mean, I don't allow any sort of queen h5 opportunities or anything like this. So, I mean, yeah, if he's able to trade off the queens, I think even if he loses a pawn, it's very much something that he would like to do because his king is just under such heavy fire. So yeah, I mean, I definitely have a lot of tempting options here. Knight f3, knight e2, or e5, maybe even long castles. Yeah, there's just so much stuff here. Yeah. So it's quite difficult to work it out.
I think my like very basic thinking was like, I know I've got to play knight f3 at some point, so I would like play knight f3 and like decide other stuff later between like e5 and castling kingside or queenside. But you seem to have thought like e5 was definitely going to get played. which I just wouldn't have recognized yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's actually the correct decision, but it feels quite logical to me to shut down his bishop, and I'm kind of protecting my center, like the d4 pawn. Yeah, but it's so hard to tell. I mean, even now I'm not totally sure what the correct way to approach the position is. But e5, it felt like it carried some threats to it, because I mean it cuts off his queen from ever participating in the king side. It's yeah. I mean, I really can't answer that.
No,
question.
it's very cool. I mean, I think we're definitely learning something from your answer.
Yeah, I mean,
really
I think there was a lot of possibilities here, and e5 is just intuitively I felt like it was going to be dangerous.
Yeah. Hey, Kostya, can I tell him your variation and see if he thought of it? Probably not.
Oh yeah, that's a fun
He
one.
didn't consider it that much. But here, I mean, I wonder, you might just enjoy this, basically. But with Kostya, we were thinking of 17 knight f3 instead of e5. And then for black, we thought c takes d4, e takes d4, rook takes d4, maybe, as an exchange stack.
Okay.
So then we take it with the knight with white, bishop takes d4, and white castles queenside,
Right.
hitting the bishop. And then for 1 second, we thought, oh, maybe bishop takes c3 gives black a perpetual check. But after bishop takes c3, Kostya found rook d8 check.
Whoa. Okay. Wait. So queen takes, and then I guess b takes c3.
Yeah.
It's BC.
Oh, king g7. We can even play e5.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really nice. Yeah, that's not something I calculated.
Okay, that wasn't something you looked at. Because I was like floating the idea of the exchange stack, and then Kostya found that, and I was just pretty shocked.
I feel like for a wonder though, it's just like he sees knight d4, bishop d4, and he's just like, okay, there's probably mate here. It's like
He's like, whatever, yeah.
he'll figure out once he gets
Yeah,
here.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of attacking possibilities here, especially since black is so underdeveloped. I mean, if he had like 96 already on the board, like he's already threatening the center quite directly. But here, I mean, I just have that one temple to consolidate the center, so it's not clear how he makes progress there.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I saw you and Param discussing like all kinds of variations. Did you guys find any variation that you thought was like a clear advantage or a win for white?
Yeah, I mean, there was something quite shocking, actually. After e5 takes knight c6. Yeah, here it was another tough decision whether to go knight f3 or knight e2. Yeah, I played knight e2, but actually after rook c8, queen h7, king f8, on move 23, so he goes queen b6, and here, like, apparently rook f7 check just wins the game on the spot, which is, I mean, kind of crazy on my end because it's something I was considering, and after king takes f7, like, somehow I just missed e6 check, and I mean, basically, it's just like forced mate.
Yeah, it's actually not much to calculate here for white, is it? It's just if you don't see the
it's
idea,
really not.
right?
Because I mean, I saw this position from pretty far away, so I mean, I played knight e2 instantly, but that e6 check somehow just escaped my mind. Like, I thought I had to go rook f1, and then he goes king e8, and it's not clear how I win, but e6 check, I mean, he has to go king f6, and I mean, okay, then it's basically over. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I probably just trusted him a little bit too much not to blunder something like this. Because, I mean, I felt like everything was fairly forcing, and okay, in the game, like, how we played it, it was pretty forcing, you know. But, yeah, somehow when I was calculating earlier, like, whether to go knight e2 or knight f3, I saw that this was a possibility, and I determined, like, the end position to be probably slightly better for white. And so, I mean, I didn't really consider any other, like, I mean, I didn't consider, like, some just game-ending possibility, like rook f7.
But you looked at rook f7 on almost every other move, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was, like, rook f7 or e6, knight f4, those kind of things. I mean, I even looked at rook f7 after queen b, after like knight takes d4, but
Yeah, we
I don't
saw you
think it
guys
works
talking
there.
about this really interesting line instead of queen takes g6, where Parham thought rook f7 was winning on the spot, but then black has this move queen f6 you pointed out that we just thought was sick, that you saw this from white's point of view.
Yeah, I mean it's quite a fancy look like trap, I guess, because after I take the queen and he takes, there's no way to stop rook h8. So yeah, I mean that's quite nice for his side. So I mean I don't know if like it was an intentional trap, but yeah, it's quite tricky.
From what he said, it sounded like he hadn't seen it. He thought he was just waiting there, hoping you wouldn't play rook f7.
Yeah, I guess so, but I mean sometimes it turns out that way, that like your position is actually better than you think it is.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder,
Yeah.
we got Shock waiting. He, I think, has to run soon.
Oh, sure.
So I hate to kick you off. I mean, the analysis has been really interesting, but we'll let you rest, and good luck in the rest of the games. Hopefully we'll catch you for another interview. Maybe we'll be doing it on Wednesday or Friday again.
All right, thank you.
But yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Sure.
Awesome. How exciting. Oh man, I'm so glad to be watching classical chess and listening to classical chess players talk about it.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I'm sad we couldn't listen to him for longer. Actually, would have been cool to go into that end game. But Mamedyarov won his game, and he is, I think, about to join us on Zoom. He basically said he had to run very, very quickly, so we have to just like get this in. But yeah, maybe we can ask him some critical moments about his game.
Yeah.
In the meantime, David, let me fix your video here. It's a little wonky.
Yeah, it's been too much bullet and puzzle rush. I'm really ready to hear these amazing players talk with this depth.
Right. Hey, we got Shakhriyar Mamedyarov joining us. Thanks, Shak. I know you are possibly busy, so feel free to, go whenever you need to. But we thought your game was very interesting. If you want to just open it up on your end and talk about some moves, we'll follow along. But maybe we could start with the repetition, like you decided to play on move 25 or 28. Did you think you were better here, or just you wanted to keep the game going?
There's not chessboard, yeah. I mean, just.
Yeah, if you want to open up on your end, we'll follow along. If you can mention some moves.
Where I can show it.
Oh, I can link you to the game. Here, I'll send it on.
If you can, yeah.
On Skype. If you click that should open up your game.
Yeah.
When Kostya in chat, they're saying if you can turn up Shock a little bit compared to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is okay. Okay, I think in the opening I play very bad. And I will drop. I just yeah. He play queen e2 is not very popular move, and I just think, okay, I can play every move. I play b5, bishop 3, and I play immediately bishop b7, and absolutely miss this idea. Take bishop c5, bishop take b5. After take c5, bishop take b5. Maybe I can share my Zoom here. Maybe it will be better.
No, it's okay. I can follow you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and I play knight c6 move. Again, do something strange. Okay, just 1 second. Yes, and problems I cannot analyze. Okay, yeah, okay. After, okay, I got little bit problem, and I play here some strange moves. He play very good move, knight c5. After knight g5, it looks very bad for me because it's every move. If I play rook d8, he just take bishop f6, and okay, it's very bad position. G take f6, queen h5. It's like mate. And if I play h6, his problem he take bishop f6 and knight h7. Bishop f6, bishop f6, knight h7.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Okay, I think I play this e5 on the move, and he take. It also looks very normal, but okay, I don't understand why he not play immediately rook.
Immediately, which move?
Rook here. Rook f e1 is immediately, not after knight f3. Immediately he can play this move, and it looks very bad for me because now I have not moved e4 or rook d8. I think it looks very bad. Maybe it's a losing position for me.
Oh, I see. Because you don't have e4.
Yeah, but after this move, I think it's absolutely winning position for white. But he play knight f3. Okay, he plays this move, and I play rook d8. Okay, he give me a chance, and after e4, I don't know how he can play. I mean, I think now his black's positions is, of course, not draw positions, but I mean, now it's okay. It is okay for him. If he moves ago, I mean, if he play rook e1, is absolutely very bad position for black. But now, okay, I got some chance, and he play knight d4. I just take, and queen e6 again. This move, yeah. Knight d5 is very good here. Okay, again, it's very strong. Bishop e6, and okay. After this move, I understand. Okay, I must play for win, but because first time in this game I got some good positions. I mean, minimum black is okay. And I just played 2 times rook c8, and okay, first I want to play this move. This looks very interesting. Take and knight b4.
Which move was that? Sorry.
b3. I mean rook c8, queen e6, b3.
Oh,
yeah,
b3.
3. Yes, looks. I want to play some knight b4, but here is a very strong move. Rook c8 and rook c8 and knight take e4 pawn, and white is minimum okay. Okay, now I play knight c3. I mean knight c3. He play b6. I play bishop e5, and now again this is very strange move after bishop e5. Knight take e4. Pawn.
Yeah, we were thinking about this one.
But maybe I will take this, take knight e4. Maybe some strong move. Problems if he take f3 knight c5, and if he will play rook e6 and just b7 and rook c1 check. It's like it's very strong check.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and okay, I think, but maybe some. Maybe we missed something. Maybe knight take e4 is okay. Maybe I don't know. But okay, he play take knight b1. Okay, this also looks like draw positions, but I just tried to go with pawns to h4, h3. I think okay, I play without any risk, and here it looks not easy to play for white because. Okay, pawn is very good. He just play here rook. I play first take and rook c2. I play h5 and rook c6.
Yeah.
Rook b1, h4, queen 2, and I play this. Okay, it looks again like a draw position, but I don't know how. His problem is b6 pawn. I don't understand why he not plays this queen g4 immediately. After this move, because after this maybe it's draw. Problem
What was your plan against queen g4?
no, I think it's after queen g4 is draw. I think it's easy draw, yeah. But I think I want to play some moves, but I don't know how. Maybe because it's not easy to play some moves. I want to play queen e5, maybe queen d5. If I play queen d5 check, he will play and he will just play rook c1, and it looks draw. And I think it was wrong idea to play b7. Queen g4 is immediately draw. But he played b7. Now it's absolutely different position. You know, it's now after queen g4, I play this move very strong. It's very strong move. Now, if you play rook d1, I don't know. I want to play this very stupid move, queen d3.
Yeah.
I think it looks very interesting. Queen d3, but I don't know. I want to play this move. But okay, after queen d5, he play take. I play queen d3. I play rook c1. I play this. I think it's good move. After rook c7, and he plays this queen f5, c2. I just take and I play. We lost temp or not? I think we lost temp. Yeah.
You played queen f5, c2, rook a1, rook c takes b7.
Here, yeah?
There he must be lost.
Yeah. Okay, after he played b7, rook b8, and he played here. Which move he played?
b7, rook b8, queen g4.
Yeah, and I play queen d5.
Right.
Yeah. Queen d5, and he take, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep.
I play rook c7. First queen d3.
Queen d3, right.
He play rook c1, and I play rook c7.
Yeah.
He plays some queen f5, yeah?
Yeah.
They play c2. Which move we played?
We didn't understand queen f5. After he played queen f5, we thought you were definitely winning.
But okay, after he plays this move, yeah, rook e1,
Yeah.
Yeah, c2, rook a1.
and I take this pawn, but I don't see which move he played. Yeah.
King g2.
King g2 because I forgot it, because rook b5 is very strong move. I don't know. It looks like very strong. Rook b5 first. Maybe it's not important, but it looks very strange. But okay, if not queen e5, I don't know. But now it looks very bad, no? I don't know how he can play. I play c2, take b7, is losing position.
Mm-hmm.
He's losing. Now he's losing position. But I want to show you a very nice line, which I calculate. And after I see one line, okay, I play rook b5, and he play queen g4. I play
Queen f4.
queen f4, and I play rook b1. Yeah, I calculate very nice line. Here he played queen c7. I think queen e2 very strong move. Yeah.
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 It's very strong. Yeah, I absolutely was shocking when I calculate very nice line. You see, I played check, and here I want to play. Okay, I think it's why not rook b5, same. But this maybe is winning. Yeah, but I calculate this line. Take.
Wait, so this was rook 1 b5?
No, I just I want to show one line. Rook b5. Yeah. If I play rook b5.
Mm-hmm.
Side queen e5. He play this move. I think it looks, of course, it's winning. Yeah, but why not? Take, check. It's draw.
Oh wait, sorry. So what were the moves there? Because I'm just following along on our board.
If I play queen f3 check, king h3.
Yeah.
If I play the rook 8 b5,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
he play rook e5.
Right.
take rook and queen take e5, rook takes c1, queen d8, king h7, queen h4, king g6, queen g5 is draw.
Oh!
I calculated. I was in shock. I think it is draw. Yeah? It is
That's
draw.
why-
He didn't play rook b5.
Yeah, we were thinking like, what are you thinking about? Oh,
Yeah, it is draw. Yeah, fantastic draw.
that is
Oh
sick.
my goodness.
This is very tricky, and I think why not rook b5? It looks maybe rook b6 is winning. Yeah, it's same idea. Rook b6, but rook b5 is draw. I see rook b5. I was shocked, and I think why okay, queen e5 and rook c8 is winning. Easy winning.
Oh my god.
Yes, I was in shock.
That's
when
why I don't win my games, because I'm not paying attention that closely at the end.
Yeah, you don't remember what it's like to be 2400 Shock and like you play a good game and then you miss that trick and draw.
Yeah. It was too near. Yeah, I think it's okay. Why not play rook b5? It looks very easy, but a fantastic line. Yeah, it's a fantastic draw. First you think okay, he will resign after 2 months, but it is draw. Rook c1 and queen d8, queen g5. Draw. Fantastic.
Oh man.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
because we
cool.
were watching and we thought, yeah, he could play rook b5 and it's over.
Yeah. Okay, queen
And
e5.
played something else,
Rook
and we're like, oh yeah, rook c8 also wins in a simpler way.
Yeah, and I see rook c8, and I see okay, why not?
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
like it. I think he was okay. First, Liam got very good position near winning. I think big advance for him, but he started to play some strange moves, and after it was draw positions, but after draw positions, I think Liam change because he understand he was his control of the game, and he was draw position, and he started to play bad with draw position. But okay, I mean, it's easy to say something when you win. But I think it looks very nice, very good game. Thanks for playing. It was a nice game.
Well, thanks so much, Shock. Yeah, we'll let you go. Thanks for the analysis. That was very, very interesting. It's awesome to
Thank you.
hear your thoughts. Yeah, good luck in the rest of the tournament. Hopefully, we'll get another chance to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Post queen d8.
Yeah, that was
G5.
that was amazing. Yeah, I'm still like, oh man, fascinating. Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, everybody. Wow.
So
Well, I
cool.
think I think both looking at what Parham Magsudlu and Awonder Liang were talking about after their game, and then looking again and hearing what Shock was looking at during his game, it really shows like how much work there is to do on calculation to be at that level of what how thoroughly and creatively they're calculating all these lines.
Yeah, it almost like doesn't matter how winning the position is or just how good it looks. There's always some trick. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was muted in Zoom. I was just saying it's like crazy. It's like doesn't matter how sharp or how winning the position looks. There's always like some additional resource to be found.
Right. How simple or how complicated, how sharp or how yeah, I mean it's just everywhere there's stuff.
It always blows my mind. Like as confident as these guys are in their calculation, they're still just so vigilant and careful not to overlook any detail. Because they know how easy it is. I'm sure they've both lucked out that kind of way many times in their careers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll be wrapping up the
Fantastic
stream
lessons.
here, guys. Yeah, that was a great 4 games. Actually, all games were, I thought, really interesting. We'll definitely clip the interviews for you guys later. You can go back and watch them. We had a nice talk with Awonder, and then with with Jeffrey before that, and now Shock. And yeah, we'll be back with more coverage on Wednesday, same time as today, 8 a.m. Pacific time, and then Friday again. So looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I'll be streaming later today, actually, for Norm Hunter. That'll start at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And David, are you doing a stream later today as well?
Yeah, tonight at 9 o'clock, I think I'll do the evening stream. So,
Awesome.
or the late night stream. So yeah,
Sweet.
good stuff, exciting. And Kostya, you wanna raid somebody?
Yeah, I was just looking up
we go.
who we can raid. I was thinking we raid Yevgeny Mironius Vulgaris, Grandmaster
Yeah.
from Ukraine. He usually does some high level stuff.
Yeah, one of the most wonderful moments in my entire chess career was losing a game to him. It was really interesting.
That's funny. Looks like he's doing a show called Pro Coaches Noob, so that's fun. I always like those.
Yeah, we'll see what that is.
And
All
yeah,
right.
thanks so much for joining us, guys. We'll catch you. We'll catch you
Yeah,
next
Foos,
time.
we will post our schedule for the week on Twitter, as we always do on Mondays, pretty much. So I'll send that out very soon.
Awesome. Have a good one.
All right, bye everybody.